proceedings. Point 1 on the agenda, apologies for absence. Do I have any apologies for absence? Councillor Kennedy. Scott Lee. Do we have other apologies at all?
Councillor Wallace.
Okay, any further? Did we hear those? Could you say them again, Karen, for me, please? I didn't hear them.
Councillor Robinson, Councillor Dodds, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Jeff Watson, Councillor Robinson. And Councillor Horncastle.
Councillor Horncastle as well. Have I missed anyone else? Councillor Dickinson?
Councillor Wallace.
Thank you. Okay. Right, next item. Yeah. Councillor Swinburne. We've got Councillor Swinburne on there. Okay, item 2, minutes of the meeting of County Council held on Wednesday, the 2nd November 2021, as circulated to be confirmed as a true record, signed by the business chair with the common seal on page 11 to 36. Do we accept those? Councillor Reid and then Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. Page 24, the notice of motion. I was just wondering whether we did get a response from the 4 MPs. We were promised that if we did, they would be circulated so they could see what was said. And so I was just wondering whether we did actually get a response. And I hope nobody did bet the bottom dollar.
Does anyone know the answer?
Yeah, I know the answer. My bottom dollar is safe, but not completely yet, because we're still waiting to hear from one, and when we hear from all of them, I will circulate them. But we have heard from 3 so far.
Okay, Councillor Hill.
Thank you and Happy New Year, everyone. Everyone laugh. Page 31 at the top. It says, amendment of the table of committees on page 45 of the Constitution to reflect the size of the Petitions Committee, Standards Committee and Staff and Appointments Committees is now 9 members, following the decision of full council on the 26th of May 2021. Now, I presume...
Sorry, can I just hold you there? Which page did you say
sorry,
it was?
31.
31, thank you.
Now, I presume, I'm no mathematician, but I presume that it was going to be 5 Tories and 4 non-Tories, but now with, congratulations Suzanne, the by-election result, I presume it'll be the other way around. I'm also slightly confused because the Standards Committee, when I'm looking at members of the current Standards Committee, I was looking for an update, but actually nobody's listed as being on the Standards Committee. So could you confirm the numbers for that and what's going on there?
The first point, there's an agenda item coming up later about committee sizes. And I'd also say that this is in regards to minutes which were held before the election. So I think we're talking about accuracy of those minutes.
Yes, well, I'm asking a question on the minutes about what's happened following that.
There's a whole report coming up on that, as you're well aware.
I'm asking about an action that happened from following on.
I've just said there's an agenda item coming up. There'll be plenty of time to discuss it.
All right. So you're going to try to reverse it back or something, are you?
I don't understand the premise of what you're saying.
Oh, okay. Could you just keep calm, please?
I'm very
You're
calm.
the business chair. And
excuse me, I'm very calm.
Running.
I'm very calm.
Right.
You're asking quite a lot of questions there. I've given you an answer. I don't think you like the answer I've given, so if you try to ask the question again, it would appear to me.
I'm just looking for clarity and
Move on.
why you're being so cagey about it.
I'm not being cagey at all. I've said there's a whole agenda item
But just draw people's attention to that minute.
Our attention is drawn
Committee
to it.
9.
Thank you very much. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Chair. On page 34, it refers to a number of questions raised by members and the report into the interim monitoring officer. I asked one of those questions and I was told by the chief exec that I would get an answer in writing. I didn't get that answer in writing. I was told that we weren't, that couldn't be disclosed. And the question I was asking was around whether or not the previous monitoring officer had had any sort of ex gratia settlement and what the terms of his departure was, and I had a concern that as a statutory officer we as councillors ought to know that. I just wonder if I could seek some legal advice, not necessarily now, but something later in writing, from the council's legal department about whether or not we as councillors do have a right to know that information.
Yeah.
Just for clarity, I did reply to the said councillor.
Okay.
Yes, no, I did accept that there was a reply, but the reply was that I wasn't entitled to that information, and I'm just questioning that, whether that's legally correct.
Well, anyone wish to answer that legally? Because I'm not a lawyer, I can't really answer that one. I can't, no one, there's no answer to that.
Okay, well, if I could seek an answer after the meeting, that would be helpful. Thank you.
For you, of course.
Yeah.
The legal team will respond.
Yeah, legal team will respond to you, Nick.
And Chair, through you as well, minutes are, for accuracy. It says in your procedure rules, not for debate. So if you've got anything to say about minutes, it is for accuracy only, that they are correct and true record of what was decided.
Okay. Okay. Anything else on the minutes? Are we all happy to, I think we need to accept them. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor, I'm sitting over here. I've actually got my red thing on.
I do apologise. I can't see. It's not a great room for seeing. I
know
I
it's
didn't
not.
see you.
So
So
it's
yes,
fine.
Councillor Bale.
It was just, actually Councillor Horncastle's not here, so it was just an update on page 19, where we were promised that the Director of Planning would arrange for a briefing on the local plan. And I just wondered if we had an update on that, please. And a Happy New Year to everybody too.
Well, I don't have an update on that, but I'll quite happily get Councillor Horncastle to email you on that point. Is that okay? Okay, thank you very much for that. Point 3, disclosure of members' interests. Councillor Kennedy and then Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Chair. It's with regards to page 4, motion number 2 on the tax declaration. I'm a member of Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, and therefore have a personal prejudicial interest because of my employment, and therefore will leave the room and not be part of that debate. Thank you.
Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Chair. It relates to agenda item 12.2, amendments to the Constitution, specifically the proposal for the creation of a grievance committee. I actually have taken legal advice from the monitoring officer over either a perceived or an actual conflict that I may or may not have on that matter, and I am confident, given the answer which I've received, that I can participate. I don't know whether anybody else has decided to do that as well.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else with a hand up I haven't seen? And I apologise, it's quite a difficult route to scan. So if you see someone, well, I don't see them. At this point, I'll say it should be direct declarations of interest from members and officers. So, Daljit, do you wish to?
Yes, so as the statutory head of paid service, I have been advised that I have conflicts on 2 reports, so I will be leaving the room at that point.
Okay. Just before I come on to anything else on the agenda, it was pointed out to me about wearing of masks today. I think it is advised we wear masks while we're not speaking. I think that is advice we've been given. I will probably be speaking on and off quite a lot, so I will probably keep mine off if people are comfortable with me doing that. If I am extended period, I may try to put it back on. But that is the advice I've been given. If members, yes.
It's just to say, Chair, I'm wearing my mask at the moment, but I suffer from asthma, so there'll be occasions where I need to take it off.
I was just going to come to a point, Councillor Bridget, that if people feel, because I'm wearing masks can be quite uncomfortable, that we need a recess for a period, please do not hesitate to say, we've been here a long time. If I've not had my mask on, I'm probably not feeling it quite as much as other people. Do feel free to indicate to me, and I'll look to have a recess where people can go outside, get some fresh air or whatever. Okay? So thank you very much for that. Any more declarations I missed? I can't see any, so I shall move on. I'm going to change the agenda just very quickly here and go to point 11 on the agenda, which is the returning officer to submit the return of the person elected as councillor for Hexham East on Thursday the 16th December as follows, that Suzanne Holly Fairless Aitken has been elected in Hexham East Division. Congratulations and welcome to the council, and I do hope you find it as rewarding as other members find it on the council, and I hope you find it an enriching experience. Can I just confirm, have you signed the declaration of office? I have, yeah. That's fine. I just was asked to confirm that, and if you have, that's fantastic, and take a full part in this meeting as anyone else does. Okay, so I'm going to move on to announcements very quickly. My first announcement is I wish to inform you that sadly former County Councillor Walter Day died on the 17th of December 2021. He represented the Crampton South East electoral division from 1985 until 1993 and was a former mayor of Blythe Valley Borough Council. Can I therefore ask that we stand for 1 minute's silence within his memory? Thank you very much, Council. Was also Her Majesty the Queen's New Year's Honours List. The following people, particularly connected with Northumberland, have received honours. Order of the British Empire, Mrs. Leslie Moody of Morpeth, Northumberland, President of the North East England Chamber of Commerce for services to business and the community in the North East of England. Mr. Derek Andrew Wood of Ashington, Northumberland, Head of Retirement Service Assurance Department for Work and Pensions for services to pensioners. Member of the Order of the British Empire, Miss Bridget Lara Stratford of Ponteland, Northumberland, Project Coordinator, North East Solidarity and Teaching, Newcastle University, for services to refugees and asylum seekers, particularly during COVID-19. Medalists of the Order of the British Empire, Miss Lucinda Mary Porter of Ponteland, Northumberland, for services to girl guiding, and the Royal Victorian Order, MVO, to Mr. Robert Patrick Biggs, Morpeth, Northumberland, Deputy Clerk to Lieutenancy of Northumberland, for personal services to the monarch. I think we congratulate them all on their deserved honours. Thank you very much there. Okay, I have no further announcements. I've got some correspondence that firstly I'll go to myself, then I'll pass to Councillor Sanderson. Sorry, there's announcements, I beg your pardon. Councillor Sanderson has an announcement. I'll come to correspondence after that. Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you very much. There's just one or two things I'd like to touch on, please, just following on from the last council meeting and to bring us up to speed with how we dealt with Storm Arwen and where we are today with that. First of all, I would say that the budget consultation has begun online with full invitations to the public and residents to get involved in giving and having their say in the budget, and we will shortly be going round the local area councils, albeit virtually, to explain where we are heading with the budget, and we will be launching the budget at the end of this month or very early in February. There will be a full meeting of scrutiny and also following the Cabinet. The devolution situation that I've kept you in touch about is still being discussed. And we expect that there might be some more information on this in the Levelling Up paper when that comes, which could be the end of this month or in February. The position is still, as far as I'm concerned, that Northumberland will not think about becoming part of a larger devolution area unless and until there are real advantages for Northumberland doing so. I like the way we work at the north of Tyne at the moment, and I think it suits us and our neighbouring authorities well. But I will keep you in touch, and I do want Council to have a full discussion at the appropriate time as things move on. We've made good progress with the Farming and Environment Group. We've held one meeting and there is another one planned for later this month with the intention that we will be giving our recommendations to DEFRA, to government, within the next 2 months. Turning to the storm, it's only right that I spend a minute or two on this, and I would start straight away by saying thanks to all the staff in the council, across the council, for everything they did to help our people. I think it was a fantastic effort, whether it was clearing trees, helping power grid, sorting out flooding, helping people that needed special care and attention, elderly, vulnerable, sick. Fantastic effort by all the staff, and thank you very much on behalf of all members, I'm sure. I also want to pay tribute to some of our members who went largely unseen and just carried on doing their work. I'm not going to name them, but there are 2 or 3 who specifically have done way beyond the call of duty as a community champion, and thank you to them. I also want to say thank you to all the volunteers who've done so much during those particularly dark days, literally, and also to the community groups, and also to the engineers from Power Grid, who, when I came across them, were incredibly hardworking and only interested in trying to get power back as quickly as they could. So thank you to the engineers involved. We were actually a few days into a week's break when the storm came. We managed to get a virtual office, which worked fine, a lot better than when I returned home on the Wednesday, where we were, like many others, in pitch black with no power at all at home. We had 5 nights of that, and that helped me sympathise with all those people who had more than 5 nights, some of whom had 10, 11 nights without any power or heat. And that's why, when I spoke to the Prime Minister on the Saturday the 5th, I said to him that I'm not really interested in having visits from ministers or from the Prime Minister. I'm only interested in making sure that when this is over, there is a national inquiry and a local inquiry. And I made that clear through the press, and I'm grateful to all the press for covering what I said then. I hope very much that that work is underway through the MPs and through Power Gen nationally. We need to look at Power Grid, Northern Power Grid as an organisation, the mobile phone users, Northumbrian Water. Northern Power Grid needs to be able to explain to all of us about their infrastructure, the soundness or otherwise of it, their investment or otherwise that's been made up here, and their assurance that they will be able to deal with a similar situation in a different way next time. I'm sure we will get the same kind of disaster again, and we must be sure that the utilities are there acting efficiently and well. On the local review, which is underway, and actually I have a copy of the timetable of all the meetings that are taking place. That's work that's underway, and I'm grateful to Jackie and the staff. That's going to be led by the scrutiny committee, and it'll be up to them who is involved in that work. I see that there's 4 evidence gathering sessions there, including all of the MPs, councillors, town and parish council, voluntary sector, telecommunications companies, and so on. So it's very important that that work happens, and I know that will happen efficiently and well, and we'll make recommendations soon. So thank you for getting all of that underway now. A brilliant effort. I also want to, and I've written to Power Grid and also to Scottish Power about the fact that we still have an awful lot of houses, a lot of them up in the Coquet Valley, that have no mains electricity. It's surprising how many there actually are up there. So I've written to them to say, as part of this exercise, we want you to look carefully at why you can't consider connecting up those, given the power that you have and given the profits that you are making. So that is in hand, and our officers are working with them on that as well. So lots going on. I just would finish by saying that the most important part for me around this local review is to ensure that local people, local residents who have suffered so much have the opportunity to place their questions and make their statements and have some assurance from Power Grid and others that should such a storm happen again, there will not be the lack of communications that we've seen. They will want to ask, why isn't the 10,000 generators stuck in a warehouse somewhere to allow quick and easy changeover to that sort of power in this sort of thing again? So there are lots of questions. They will all be answered, I'm sure, and I've got full confidence that scrutiny will be ruthless in their questioning on this. But it's up to the residents to have their chance to be able to speak and to be heard, and to make sure that if this ever happens again, they are not let down as they were this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. I'll go into correspondence. I've just had one bit of correspondence. I emailed Councillor James Jameson of the, I think he's chair of the LGA, I think it's official role. I expressed my concern about us having to have meetings face to face, and I expressed that I supported personally the LGA campaign that we should be meeting virtually at this current time. Councillor Jameson did write back to me to say thank me for my support on that, and I hope that, I don't know, but I feel I may be conveying the thoughts of this council on that matter. But that's one bit of correspondence I did receive. I don't think I had any other correspondence, so thank you very much for that. I go to item 6 on the agenda, which is questions, and the first question is from Councillor Oliver to the Leader.
Thank you, Chair. What are the correct council processes for the appointment, termination and agreement of significant contractual or remuneration variations for statutory and non-statutory chief and deputy officers as defined by the Local Government and Housing Act 1989?
Thank you. I'm going to change my normal routine and read this out because it's too complicated for me to really understand, so I need to read it out for you. The Council has set up the following committees. 1, a dismissal advisory committee to provide independent advice to full Council in relation to any proposal to dismiss the head of paid service monitoring officer or Section 151 officer. 2, the Employment Appeals Committee to consider and deal with disciplinary action and appeals from senior officers, including matters relating to the Council's head of paid service monitoring officer and Section 151 officer. 3, the Staff and Appointments Committee. This committee considers and determines the overall scheme and policies in relation to employee terms and conditions and deals with the appointment of senior officers, including making recommendations to Council on the appointment of the head of paid service. The process for the recruitment and appointment of the head of paid service, chief officers and deputy chief officers is carried out in accordance with the Officer Employment Procedure Rules and is covered by page 85-86 of the Northumberland County Council Constitution. The process for dismissal is also subject to these rules. For the purpose of these rules, the chief officers are the head of paid service and executive directors, deputy chief officers, directors, associate directors, service heads and the chief fire officer. For purposes of clarity, under the Local Government Act 1989, chief officer is, in relation to a relevant authority, means each of the following. 1, a head of its paid service designated under Section 4.1 of the Local Government and Housing Act 1989. The monitoring officer designated under Section 5.1 of that Act, the Chief Finance Officer 151 of the Local Government Act 1972, a statutory chief officer mentioned in Section 2.6 of that Act, a non-statutory chief officer mentioned in Section 2.7 of that Act, a deputy chief officer mentioned in Section 2.8 of that Act. I hope you're all listening to this. I'm going to be asking questions. These are the following statutory officers: head of paid service, monitoring officer, the chief finance officer, the director of children's services, Section 18 of the Children's Act 2004, and the director of social services, Section 5.1 of the Local Government Act and Local Government and Housing Act 1989. Additional information: a pay policy statement is approved by full council on an annual basis. This statement articulates the council's policies towards a range of issues relating to the pay of its entire workforce and includes the approach of remuneration of senior staff. Ends.
Supplementary, Councillor Oliver.
Thank you. That was very comprehensive. Thank you. In the 2021 accounts on the council website, there's a single exit payment for £487,591. So that's nearly £500,000 of Northumberland taxpayers' money that's been spent on making one person redundant. Nobody in the Cabinet at the time was informed of that. And when we asked for information about that redundancy and how much it had cost, we were refused that information by the council. We didn't get that information until it was published publicly in the council's accounts. So will you, as the leader, support my request for an investigation into whether or not this was done in accordance with the policies that you just set out in very clear detail, and whether other similar events have also been carried out in accordance with those same policies and the statutory requirements?
Yes, well, what I'll do is I'll ask the cabinet member responsible for governance to look at this and contact you once he's considered this.
Thank you.
Okay. Question 2, Councillor Hill to the leader.
Thank you. There are always lessons to be learnt for everyone after any emergency situation. What has the leader personally learnt following Storm Arwen and what would you do better next time?
Well, I don't think it necessarily takes an emergency for one to do things better or to learn lessons. I think we learn lessons and learn how to do things better in our daily lives. I think in this particular emergency, I learned of the value of people's good nature, working in either in the council or with some of the partners on our tactical advisory group, or indeed the voluntary sector and those people who just cared about their neighbours where they lived. I know in my own area, Long Horsley, there was a fantastic turnout of local people producing food and comfort to people who didn't have electricity. So I think I learned a lot about the goodness of human nature in that. I have to say, sadly, there were one or two councillors who chose to make party political points about it at the time. I'm not going to repeat them now, but I'm sure they'll get picked up when we do our review and we analyse how some members behave. But generally, I feel very positive about the way that people reacted to what was a really difficult time in our county, certainly one of the most difficult times that I as a member have had to deal with a number of issues coming through to me, not about council things, but about the fact they couldn't get information from Power Grid or from Northumbrian Water, and the fact that we as local members, and those of you that were very involved in this will know that actually it was a very, very difficult time because we had a lot of very angry people, and then as the days went on, a lot of people in tears and very upset, and the ability of local councillors to be able to help using the officers of this council who were so helpful to us, I learned a lot of very good things about that.
Supplementary, Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. I feel like declaring a major incident that the leader's actually pretty much answered a question that I've asked, which is very refreshing. My supplementary, just one of the issues that came up was around communication. And does the leader think that the relief effort and response was any way hampered regarding poor communication and the poor relationships that currently exist within this council?
I'm not aware of any poor communications. If you want to send me a note and tell me what you're suggesting, I certainly haven't come across any poor communication from any cabinet members. So I'm sorry, I don't know the answer. I do know that there were an awful lot of good communications, very positive communications, and exceptionally good joint working.
Thank you. Question 3, Councillor Hill to Councillor Horncastle. Although Councillor Horncastle isn't here, so I don't know if anyone's going to take that or not. I think it's a last minute one, because Councillor Bridget's question to Councillor Watson I'll be taking.
I can take that one.
Okay, Councillor Sanson's kindly agreed to take
Thank
it.
you.
So the response is that the County Council do hold a stock of sandbags at all its main depots, including Tweedmouth, and they are available for use by local services staff during flooding incidents. We prioritise our use of sandbags to areas of greatest need during any incident in order to protect public safety and property, and work closely with other partners such as Northumbrian Fire and Rescue, Northumbrian Police and the Environment Agency. The Council's approach to sandbag provision is clearly stated out on our webpage. It's interesting, I didn't know that. Has anybody seen that? No. So that's something, oh, thank you. So that's something to look at tonight, which I will do. It reflects national guidance, though. It reflects national guidance, which places responsibility firmly on the householder to make their own appropriate property level flood protection arrangements, as their own appropriate property level flood protection arrangements. As sandbags are not as effective as purpose-made flood protection equipment and can't be relied on. The advice states the County Council does not provide sandbags direct to any residents in the event of flooding. Residents in known flood risk areas are encouraged to make their own arrangements for protecting their properties against the threat of floodwater, including buying sandbags. That's it?
I'm sure.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Sorry, there's another page. I'm sure you all want to hear it. If residents feel that their property is in danger of flooding and they do not have suitable protection, they should call us on 0345 600 6400. If you call us, the council will arrange for the area to be inspected at the earliest opportunity. Upon inspection, if water ingress is imminent, then a decision will be made by the inspector to arrange for sandbags to be deployed. It is important to stress that whilst every effort is made to ensure that water ingress is avoided, we also must ensure that our resources are carefully utilised, and only where immediate water ingress to properties is verified will sandbags be deployed. Sandbags are readily available at builders' merchants, and there are lots of modern alternatives that are easier to store and expand. The Council is also working closely with both the Environment Agency and Northumbrian Water on integrated modelling work on the drainage systems within Berwick, which we know about, to help inform improvement and investment plans to help reduce the risk of flooding in the area. That's it.
Right. For a supplementary, I'm sure that Councillor Sanderson was mistaken in not allowing you to ask your question, but I'm sure you'll take it in good grace that was an honest mistake, and I'll let you have your...
I think this administration's full of honest mistakes, so I'll take that.
Sure, our position is...
Can I just, you'll indulge me just to say, can I just say the reason I asked this is that on the Saturday, I think it was after the storm, there was very bad flooding in Berwick, and if I hadn't stopped at 2 in the morning, it would have got quite a serious situation indeed. There wasn't any sandbags. It wasn't adequate. There might be half a dozen in Tweedmouth, but there wasn't. They had to travel down to Amble to get them. And I do know that workers in that, you have raised this over the years, that in somewhere like Berwick, there should be a stock of sandbags much nearer than Amble. And as I say, if it had carried on raining, there was flooding in Councillor Hunter's, part of Councillor Hunt and Councillor Seymour, and North Road was really bad, and it was on the brink of being pretty serious. And the fire brigade and everything were worried about the last of sandbags. So I will follow up on this.
Okay. I'm not sure if that's a supplementary, but I will indulge you because you didn't have your question beforehand. But I will just say I was at the Berwick Art Gallery and Museum about that time, and I did see quite a lot of flooding water. I agree with that. Question 4 is from Councillor Kennedy to the leader.
To Glenn Sanderson, please. So, quotes, alongside £5 million to regenerate the former bus station site. These are the words of the Hexham MP in a letter, which is this one, to those who live in Hexham East during the December 2021 by-election. Didn't go too well, I don't think, that one, but there we go. I assume the statement is accurate, and therefore can I ask the leader of the County Council to work with me and other Hexham County councillors and the Hexham Town Council in developing this important site to one that Hexham can be proud of. Hexham has had to endure the former bus station in its dilapidated state for far too long, and I'm pleased the County Council is planning on making such an investment.
Councillor Sanderson.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. There is £5 million in our capital programme, and there has been actually for some time, to cover regeneration in the centre of Hexham, which includes the bus station site. We can't progress a project without close working with the owners of land concerned, and negotiations are going on with that. Because we're not there completely yet, we are retaining the £5 million in the capital programme. Because it's something we do want to see happen, and we hope very much we'll be able to get started with something. And that will be in our budget, which I'm sure Councillor Kennedy will be supporting come budget day, and which we look forward to. The funding is, of course, in addition to the funding that the council has provided to complement the Hexham Heritage Action Zone. So it's on top of that money. And for the funding of the creation of hundreds of additional car parking spaces at the old bunker site, which is taking shape now. So as well as the 5 million, we're talking about an extra 3 million or so in these other services. So you will be aware, Councillor Kennedy, from the meetings of the Hexham Hub, that we are committed to working with Hexham and all those interested parties in Hexham, and we are putting our money where our mouth is.
Supplementary, Councillor Kennedy.
No, I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Question 5 from Councillor Bridget to the leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On Friday the 3rd of December, a week after Storm Arwen first hit, Councillor Sanderson announced via social media that a major incident had been called, and I quote, as per my request. Could Councillor Sanderson please tell me that why, if he had the authority as leader to make such a request, did it take a week for him to do so, and does he agree that a major incident should have been called far sooner than 7 days after the storm?
Thank you. Fairly easy answer to that one. Councillor Bridget may not be aware that at the beginning of the when it became clear how serious the storm damage and the repairs were going to be, there was a tactical group set up which involved the chief operating officers of ourselves and our partners, and it was that group that made collective decisions throughout the period of time. I remained very closely in touch with that. The chief executive and others were in daily, sometimes hourly contact. I took the decision right at the start that I would take 2 steps back and not bring any political interference into the running of this tactical group, because I felt this was an operational matter. We should leave it to the experts to deal with. However, on the 2nd of December, which was a Thursday, I think it was, Northern Power Grid put out a text message to a number of people who had been without power since the Friday. So this was almost a week after they'd had no power, to say that instead of your power being reconnected as they'd been told it would be within the next 24 hours, it might now be the 6th or 7th of December before they got their power back. In other words, at a stroke of a pen or a quick text telling customers that they would now have to wait and endure another 3 or 4 or 5 nights of misery. On that information being received by myself, I got in touch with the chief executive, said to her that I really would request now that, and I supported the decision all the way through to not call a major incident, but I think now that this time had been reached, that we need some extra help, given it would take a lot more manpower, woman power, to knock on doors to check that people are all right and if we could help anymore. So therefore we needed, I felt, and I requested that we got the army in. Didn't need to have to request it very much, because Daljit was exactly on the same page as myself, and that's what happened the next day, and that's why it happened. So I didn't believe that it was my place to get involved with the tactical group. I felt it was my place to stay very closely involved and receive briefings and actually go along to one of the meetings that are taking place at Hertford. Not my decision, not my place to bring in politics, but when we had that final bold statement saying, actually, it's not going to be another day or two, it could be another week that you're going to have to endure this, that was obviously the time when we had to make that decision to get in extra help to look after our people. So I hope that is helpful.
Supplementary, Councillor Bridget.
Thank you for that answer, Councillor Sanderson. I was aware of the tactical incident group. I had the opportunity to accidentally listen in on one of the meetings, and I did find it interesting that one of the external partners, not this council, thought that Slaley was in County Durham. But one of the things that I want to raise, and I want to raise it specifically with the leader, in the hope that he will raise it with our housing team, is one of the effects of Storm Arwen was that we discovered, not just in council properties, but in a number of other social housing providers, where they had installed air source heat pumps and the accompanying solar panels to heat those residents' homes. They were entirely useless in this event, because in many of the instances contractors, in fact most of them, to install those air source heat pumps and solar panels, they'd taken out fires and log burners, which would have provided an alternative source of heat to those residents. There were a number of residents, including residents of council properties, that we had to move into hotel accommodation. One couple in particular who were not in a council property but were in a Johnny Johnson housing association property. When myself and one of the police officers entered their home, the temperature in their home, a couple in their 80s, was 2.5 degrees, and they were wrapped in so many cloths and scarves. It literally looked like they had been mummified. They were so cold, and we had to move them. And I would ask that Councillor Sanderson, I agree that air source heat pumps and solar panels are exceptionally useful, but where you have instances where a storm knocks out the electricity that provides heating to those residents, particularly elderly residents, solely air source heat pumps and solar panels, particularly in rural areas, are completely inefficient. And I would ask him if he would look into it with housing, that if we are installing these air source heat pumps and solar panels, we look to still allow to provide residents with an alternative heating method in the event those other technologies fail.
Yeah, I can fully get that. I mean, that was one example. There was another example of how BT call boxes are no good if there's no power. So if you live in a little village like Middleton, for example, which is in my patch, and you don't have a mobile phone signal or the system's down, you can't ring anyone because the BT phone boxes don't work. Those points that you've made and that point about BT will be picked up, I think, by the review. I think it's on the list, and it needs to be looked at very carefully. And I think it's a very worthwhile point you're making. So thank you. Yeah.
Okay, question 6 is from Councillor Bridget, and it's to Councillor Watson. However, I'm going to take it. I will preface it. Unless it's an easy supplementary, I might not be able to answer it. But I'll let you go for your question.
The supplementary will depend on your response, Councillor Flux. Despite repeated requests, I have been unable to gain any information in recent months from officers in relation to what is happening with the swimming pool at Rothbury and why it is still devoid of water. Would Councillor Watson be able to enlighten my residents and I into exactly what is going on there and what the council plans are for leisure services in the Rothbury area? And will Councillor Watson give me his assurance that as the elected member for Rothbury, I will be kept fully informed going forward?
Right. Councillor Watson sent me a message, so I'm not being rude, honestly. I'm not playing Candy Crush or anything. Thank you for bringing this question to Council. Investigations have determined that the significant problems with the swimming pool result from faults both with the pool liner and the water circulation system. I can assure Councillor Bridget that we now have the necessary information to present options to Cabinet later this month. These options have been prepared in context of both the technical inspection and the findings of a specifically commissioned analysis of current and future facility requirements. I can also provide assurance that key stakeholders will be consulted before any final decisions are made. Supplementary.
I look forward to a significant capital investment in the forthcoming capital programme, if that's the case.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's the end of questions there. I'll go to point 7, to receive the minutes of Cabinet meetings held on Tuesday the 9th of November, Tuesday 18th of November and Tuesday the 7th of December. Are those received? I believe they are received. Agreed? We're all happy with that? I don't think I need to propose them unless someone tells me otherwise. Point 8 of... Yeah, sorry, I missed the left-hand side and suddenly a flurry of hands have come. So I'll go for Councillor Carty, Councillor Dickinson, and then Councillor Dale. Councillor Carty.
Yeah, Barry, I just want to bring up on the point on page 38, 51B.
Have you got your mic turned on?
Yeah, I have. It's probably not close enough to us, right? It's page 38, 51B. What I want to know is, with the trial extension of the 800 bins for the curbside recycling, why are they doing it in the existing areas that you're already doing it in? Why couldn't you have done them 800 bins in another area? And when will it be actually rolled out right across Northumberland? And how sure are you that, and confident are you that you're going to get funding to roll it out fully?
I think that Councillor Riddle wants to answer.
Thank you, Councillor Carty. The reason that we are doing the 800 extra, we are utilising excess capacity or free capacity within the current runs. So that is why we are sort of maximising the efficiency of the collection. That's what we're doing. We're not putting on extra resources other than the buying of the bins. As far as when the rest of it will be rolled out, you will see what is in our budget, and you know, time will tell. I can't give you a specific for different areas at the moment, but it is on our agenda.
Okay, Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you, Chair. In relation to page 41 at the top, we had a motion from Councillor Hutchinson that was withdrawn and was going to return but didn't. And then to see the Platinum Jubilee celebrations in Northumberland being held in closed session just made me wonder what on earth was being discussed for it to be in closed session, because the paragraph talks about the onus of safety being on communities and communities to celebrate together and etc. etc. And I just, you know, if we want the communities to buy into this, we're going to need a little bit more information. So I couldn't understand why that was in closed session.
Councillor Sanderson, I think, wished to respond.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Councillor Watson leads on this issue. If you don't mind, could I ask, he's not able to attend today because he's not well. Could we do a note for you? And it'll fully explain everything. I am really proud of this new fund. It is being rolled out, I think, this week. If not this week, then early next week. And I think you'll like it. But can we leave it like that today?
Yeah, I'm happy to receive it like that. Thank you.
I've got Councillor Dale, then I'll go to Councillor Grimshaw. Councillor Dale.
I think it's page 44 and 50, 45. It's a report of the Interim Service Director of the Corporate Plan Refresh, which I've read. I think it's a wonderful opportunity maybe to discuss this in the State of the Area debate at the area committee meetings. However, what I would ask, I have to say rather wryly, there's a caption on page 3. It's a lovely picture of Morecambe Town Hall and the meeting room, and it's absolutely lovely. And the caption underneath states that it's the area, what does it say? It says the Town and Parish Council Conference, which is very good, it's excellent. However, it really is actually the holding of the appeal for planning appeal, and you can see at the top of the picture the Inspector Susan Haywood. You can also see the planning officers. So I think you should really look at your photograph and maybe rewrite the caption underneath. Because it certainly isn't. It is the local inspection of the local plan. Secondly, just very quickly, the climate change working group, your point on the for making the communities working together. I'm actually working with a lot of communities, and one of the big things that they were promised was a toolkit for the parishes or communities, and I just think it would be good to see when that is actually going to be rolled out. It's a positive thing. Can I just say a lot of the communities are already running their own and are actually really, really working very hard and are totally independent of the council. But I think that as it was promised that we should have one.
Okay,
Thank you.
just before you go there, we found it quite difficult to hear because of the visor. I think it muffles your voice a little bit. So I don't know if you are comfortable removing your visor when you speak. Yeah, so if you are comfortable removing it, please feel free to. If not, I understand. But it does make it very difficult for us to hear. It does come across quite muffled. But
is that better?
Your mic was on, I think, but I think we just had issues because of the muffling from the visor. But anyway, I think we picked up the point. The first one was about captions. I'm sure that can be sorted out. The second point was something about parish and town councils. Did anyone wish to respond on that?
No,
yes, the parish council, there were two kits for the community houses, but not particularly for the parish. You've turned me on again now. I didn't.
Yeah, he turned you on because I couldn't hear you.
Is that on? Sorry? That's on, isn't it? Shall I bring it closer? Is that better?
Yes, much better.
Right, fine. Sorry, you should have told me at the beginning. Put your hand up. Basically, what is required and what was promised was a toolkit for the parishes or the communities on how to develop a climate change action group. And it has been promised over a period of time and nothing's come forward. And I have been asked to ask you, it has been raised at various meetings where we've had forums where members have said, where is it? And the officers, unfortunately, haven't been able to respond. So if you could look into that as a matter of urgency, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Councillor Sanderson might wish to say something there.
Well, we are working very closely with community groups in the county. I think we've got, from memory, about 25 now. And if we will be making some announcement in the budget this year about climate change and working with community groups. But if you need anything else, just if you drop me a line, I'll happily answer it.
Okay, did Councillor Nisbet, did you have your hand up? Oh, sorry, I had Councillor Grimshaw, didn't I? Then Councillor Nisbet. I beg your pardon. Councillor Grimshaw.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, it's going back to page 41, and it's item number 55. And I was just wondering, with it being a report of the Interim Executive Director of Regeneration, if, with regard to Northumberland Energy Park Phase 3 site at East Sleekburn, an update on disposal to British Vault, could that be shared amongst us today, or is it still, is it still rather a delicate situation? It's just that it's in here in the cabinet reports, and I just wondered if, if we could be updated, please.
Yeah. Councillor Plochet.
Yes, so I will discuss that with Rick O'Farrell and see at what stage we are and if we can share that with you.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Nisbet.
Hi, mine's on page 55 about the regeneration in Blythe. Can I just say I'm pleased to hear that the Northern Gateway, which is Bow Street, is actually going ahead from Monday the 10th. And I would just like to say well done to Blythe Town Council for actually initiating the idea at the very beginning. That's all I would like to say on that.
In response to that, Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Chair. Just on page 41, I just want to support what Councillor Grimshaw said about the update on disposal of land to British Vault. I appreciate that this item was dealt with in closed session, and because of time constraints, I believe, the Corporate and Economic Growth Overview and Scrutiny Committee did not have the opportunity to discuss or assess the report before it was considered by Cabinet. However, I think the British Vault Gigafactory is a massive project for this council and one which all members need to be updated on. So I would support Councillor Grimshaw and ask that a briefing, even if it is confidential, is made available to all members to update them on the progress of the project. I'm aware that a public item is scheduled for the CSEG committee, but that's not until February. And I do think an update for members before then would be most useful.
Okay.
Thank you. I've also got comment on page 53, please.
Okay, far away.
The Household Support Fund. Page 26 of that Household Support Policy lists council tax as one of the exemptions to this scheme. And Corporate Services and Economic Growth Scrutiny has previously had lengthy discussions around the council tax support, and it finally transpired that we were unable to use this hardship fund as a mechanism to provide some help for people struggling with council tax. Really pleased to learn, however, at a recent scrutiny committee that our teams have been exploring other options and hopefully have come up with another mechanism by which we can provide what will be at least the equivalent to full council tax relief and I look forward to seeing that report at the committee in February, I believe. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Bourne.
Thank you, Chair. As the councillor, after I indicate the councillor did mention it, but we are having a public item on British Vault coming to overview and scrutiny very shortly. British Vault themselves will be coming along doing a presentation, and I would like to invite any councillor who would like to come, who's not on the committee, to hear that presentation and ask questions. They're very welcome to attend.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bourne. Okay, are we all done with that now? I don't see anybody else with their hand up, so we'll accept those and we'll go on to committee minutes. And the first ones I have got is page 59, Corporate Services and Economic Growth, Councillor Bourne.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to move those minutes, page 59-62. Thank you.
Thank you. Have we got anything to raise on those? I see no hands to accept them as a true record. Agreed. Thank you. I'll go to Family and Children's Services, page 63 to 68. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move the minutes of the Family and Children's Services Overview and Scrutiny Committee, pages 63 to 68, from Thursday the 4th of November.
Okay. Any comment on those? Questions on those? Can't see any. Agree, it's a true record. Point 3, Communities and Place Overview and Scrutiny, page 69 to 94, and the first part of those is for Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move the minutes of the Community and Place Overview and Scrutiny Committee held on Wednesday the 6th of October, page 69.
Okay, and do you want to move the next one as well, which is on the 20th?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to move the minutes of the same committee on Wednesday the 27th of October, page 79.
Okay, any comments or any questions on those? I can't see, so I'll go over to Councillor Reid for the minutes of Wednesday, 1st December.
I move the minutes of the meeting of the Communities and Place Overview and Scrutiny on the 1st of December, pages 85 to 92, and I might as well, while I've got the mic on, move the minutes of the Health Overview and Scrutiny on the 27th of October, pages 95 to 100.
Okay, are they all agree? I don't see any hands. Councillor Dale.
Thank you. I'm just going to bring us all forward so I can get them.
Thank you.
Could I bring your attention to page 92, item agenda 38, which is the structure and future funding arrangements of Visit Northumberland. And it has been actually discussed on the Cabinet, but was discussed in private. So I'm going from the issues I have to raise from the Scrutiny Committee, Jeff. First of all, as probably any of you know, I've been always interested in tourism for a long, long time, and I've held various high positions in tourism. And as everybody knows, tourism is very vital to the community, the economic regeneration of the Northumberland, but also the rural areas, and it goes on, but it's so important. And one of the things that Nigel Walsh states is explain the downturn in visitor numbers and the challenge to ensure growth was sustainable. And tourism is not an easy thing to manage. Over the years, they've had DMOs, goodness knows what, and the government are very happy to change ways of taking forward the development of tourism. My view is that we need to look at a longer, stable platform for the future development of Visit Northumberland. And at the moment, they've requested a development of 2-year partnership. Tourism doesn't grow in 2 years. It takes longer. And I think the County Council should be looking carefully and working with the partners to see, all tourism partners, to see if they put together a longer plan and actually make sure that these, the deliverers have actually got the appropriate funding. Otherwise, it'll just die. And these changes which we have is just of no benefit to tourism. So I think if we could even give them a 3-year partnership, that would be helpful. Whatever the government's changes are, we need to be very positive and give them the support they need. So can I ask that maybe, Jeff, you could revisit this and maybe talk to the tourism operators? I don't know if any of them were present, but it would be good to hear from them. And also Visit Northumberland, obviously.
I'm sure Councillor Watson will note that. I think that was aimed at him. So, are we all okay and comfortable with those minutes presented? Agreed, thank you. Right, item 4, I think you've done health and wellbeing, haven't you? So it's over to me. Health and Wellbeing Board, page 101 to 108, and I present the minutes of the meeting held all the way back on Thursday, the 14th of October 2021. I present those to full council. Do I have any questions or points? I see Councillor Dickinson, yes.
Just very briefly, Chair, on behalf of all of us, I guess, just the fantastic efforts of those GP surgeries and volunteers who've been delivering the booster programme, but in particular the sensitive nature of those that have been delivering it to schools across Northumberland, which have been referenced in these minutes. I think they've done a sterling job.
Yes, absolutely. And what will be referenced is how wonderful the work has been done in Northumberland, that on almost all counts we've been leading in terms of delivery, and that's such a testament both to everyone within the delivery team and working on that, as well as the residents who've come forward to do that, you know, and sometimes travel across much distance to do that in order to get boosted. Councillor Dale.
Yes, can I just add to what Councillor Dickinson said, because not only this, but we had Storm Arwen, and this was actually rolling out at the same time, and the staff have been absolutely incredible working through all these real pressures they've been working under. So I think, you know, we haven't had a report today or an update, but hopefully we will be having an update in the next couple of weeks about the rollout, well, the COVID rollout, and just to find out. But once again, our thanks, and I think everybody gives thanks to the staff. They've been incredible, and a big thank you.
Absolutely. As Chair of Health and Wellbeing Board, I have no doubt that we will have further updates as this occurs. It is a very difficult and very changing circumstance. Who knows where we will be in 2 or 3 weeks' time? But our heartfelt thanks goes to everyone involved within that. So I move those minutes. Agreed. Page 109 to 116, Audit Committee. I go to the Vice Chair, Councillor Towns.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move the minutes of the Audit Committee meeting held on Wednesday, the 24th of November 2021, pages 109 to 116.
Any questions on those? Councillor Dale, can you remember to move your mic close to you?
Yeah, sorry, mine's just about clarity on page 111, where the point was raised as the next 40-50 year period, around £250,000 would become mature in pounds. Is that figure correct, please?
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Oliver, I see that.
Chair, I think, because I asked that question, I think that should be £250 million. So Councillor Dale's quite right, it's not correct.
Okay, so I think we need to correct the minutes there.
I have to say I had a wry smile when I read that and thought that's a bit of a mistake, but thank you. Can you make those changes now?
So, respecting that change, do we agree with that, those minutes? Agree. Thank you very much. And thank you for pointing that out, very well noted. Okay, so that's those done and dealt with. Item 9, Delegated Decisions, page 117 to 118, report of the Director of IT. And this is just to note, a decision was taken on December 9th, 2021 by the Director of IT in conjunction with the Deputy Leader of the County Council to proceed with contracting with proposed suppliers in order to secure appropriate backup and recovery services for the Council's critical information systems. Do we note that? Thank you. Right, I'll go to the... Right, now I'm going to ask, are we all comfortable? Because we've been here a little while. Do we want to move progress?
Yes.
I get a sense we want to move progress. So I will go to item 10, motion number 1, and I go over to Councillor Bridget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I go into the motion, I just want to say that sometimes a lot of residents say it's great to have younger people on the council, but I always find it's good to have some older, more experienced people on the council. And Councillor Sanderson and some of the the pearls of wisdom he's offered today are a great example of that. And I'm pleased that in his announcement he mentioned a lot of the things that are contained within my motion, and I look forward to his support on it. But one of the things I would add, which was remiss of me, which I should have included in the motion, and I would like to propose an amendment and add an extra sentence to what is before you, if that is agreeable.
I think you need to move the motion.
Move the motion, and then can I propose the amendment?
You need a seconder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So do you want me to read the motion as it stands, or do you just want me to go straight in?
I think I'm getting a sense that we'd quite like it if you go straight into your amendment, so we can move.
Yeah, I'll happily. I'd like to add to the amendment, in addition to what's before you, and it's Councillor Sanderson that's quite rightly pointed this out, and I should have included it. And it's a thank you. I should have thanked all of the agencies, in particular the council staff, the fire service, the police, armed forces, local councillors, volunteers, and everyone else who assisted in helping keep the residents of Northumberland safe. And I apologise because I should have included that. I was going to say it in the words I'm going to say next, but I think it should be on the record and that should be recorded. So I'd like to add that statement as an amendment.
So that needs seconding now.
I'll second that amendment.
Yeah, and then they want to debate it.
Right. Would we like a debate on this amendment? Does anyone wish to address this debate in an amendment? I'm seeing. I can now see why we didn't want a break. Councillor Dale, beg your pardon.
Can I just ask? Right. Could I just ask, Councillor Bridget, just one thing, to request that the relevant scrutiny committees in conjunction with officers will bring together a report which outlines the issues and how those problems can potentially be mitigated. There will be members here who won't be on the relevant scrutiny committee, and their input would be very valuable. So would it be possible that all members actually have an input into putting a report together, or at least giving evidence? So I wonder if you could add that to your amendment too, please?
I think I'm happy to leave it as it is, but I think Councillor Sanderson has already given that assurance in his announcement earlier that members will be able to input into the relevant scrutiny committee, and that would be either in verbal or written statements. Am I correct, or have I misinterpreted that?
Yes, that's correct.
And sorry, and then
to saying it as well.
Sorry, Councillor Sanderson will ensure that we are invited then.
Well.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Reid.
Yeah, can I just give that assurance?
Yeah.
I'll be pulling all this together. I'll be chairing these things, and I hope that everyone will contribute in one way or another, either sitting on it, or as Councillor Bridget mentioned, either verbally or written. So the answer is yes.
Yeah, Councillor Hunter.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say, when you're talking about the different companies, if we could remember to bring Scottish Power in, as I know Northern Power Grid covers a lot of the county, but us in the north are supplied by Scottish Power, and there was issues as well there.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. I do recall it from the times when the emergency was on. Councillor Castle.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Do I take it that the work is actually underway at the moment? We're not talking about starting with a clean sheet of paper, are we? We've actually got going already, I would like to think.
Yep.
I think that needs to be reflected, that we have actually got going. This is not something we are going to start next week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for pointing that out, Councillor Castle. Did you want to come in now or at the end, Councillor Hill?
I just want to comment.
Yeah, okay, come in. Then I've got Councillor Reid as his hand up again, and I will.
While Councillor Hill's preparing herself, I'll just wait until I get to saying something and then pick up what people have said about what's going to happen.
Okay, fine. I will indulge you. You've spoken once, but I will indulge you. I think this should be fairly straightforward. Councillor Hill.
Thank you. I'm not going to. I formally second the proposal, and it's a very sensible proposal.
Actually, Councillor Dickinson did, didn't he?
No, he did the amendment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I get the feeling that everyone in the room is obviously 100% behind this. I think I would add that Councillor Bridget, I think it would be remiss not to mention, did a fantastic job. Absolutely spectacular job in his area, in the relief effort. Just one thing that came to mind, so it was more sort of a point and a question. Is there an opportunity, do you think? Obviously, these energy companies in Northumbria Water will have their own, excuse the pun, wash-up meetings. I wonder if there's any way that we could be part of it and give our feedback about what happened on the ground, because I know Northumbria Water, they knew what went wrong. They had to get water from a Heinz factory in somewhere like Warrington, somewhere in the middle of the country, and it was potentially a critical position about having to get water. So far, I believe the generators failed, and they didn't test the generators to get the work up. So the point is, as a council, can we see if we can have input, as well as all this, directly into the meetings that Northumbria Water, Scottish Power and elsewhere are having themselves?
I'm sure that can be covered at the end. Does anyone else wish to speak? I've got Councillor Kennedy and I've got Councillor Gallagher, and I wish to speak. And then we've got anyone else? I'll go for that for now then.
Yeah, just quickly, Chair. Thank you for letting me speak. I think this is all about a question of resilience. Really, it's been mentioned in the previous conversations and the questions before. If electricity goes off and you've got solar power, you've got all these other different heating things, basically stuff, it just doesn't work. So it's a question of resilience that seems to be that challenged the whole of this area. There's some excellent work into try and recover the situation, but people being without power for 2 weeks is just not acceptable. And I think the real question here is about how resilient this county was, and the suppliers of services such as electricity, water, etc., telephony, etc. So I think, I'm happy to support this.
Councillor Gallagher.
Chair, could I just quickly get a point of order?
Yes.
Because I'm a little bit confused, and the monitoring officer may wish to help here, because we need to ensure that we're doing this properly. But I thought we proposed and seconded the amendment, which needs to then be accepted into the body of the motion, and then the motion is debated. Otherwise, we're debating on a amendment.
Through you, Chair, if I may speak. Yeah, that's absolutely correct, but technically, actually, it's an alteration to his own motion. But I'm not going to kind of stick to the rules. That's because I think you're happy to put your own alteration forward, which I understand was also seconded. And now you're debating the alteration, and from what I understand, that's what you're going to debate. And then there will be a right of reply right at the end for Councillor Bridget that's put it forward.
If we're not abiding by the rules, that's fine.
I'm looking at your constitution on page 99.
It was just you said you're not going to pursue the rules on this, which is to accept the amendment into the body of the motion and then debate the motion, which is the fact.
Chair, that's entirely up to the room, the chamber, if you wish for Councillor Bridget to actually put forward with the amended words his alteration, we can add it, and then the chair can read it and we can debate that. But I thought there was general consensus in the room that you were happy with what was proposed.
Yeah. I think that's probably the case, and I think we're arguing a bit of semantics there, so I would suggest we carry on as we're carrying on. Okay, Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. All the comments about our local heroes, I totally 100% agree. There's been a lot of weight put on scrutiny and how the problems that Northumberland has dealt with in the recent weeks and months. What I would ask is that scrutiny, one, has the time to bring back the proper reports. Two, that all comments that are made through scrutiny are reported, because in past year and a half, it's been an overview of scrutiny. And I just think that we'll have to get this right and get it right first time. So if we're putting a lot of weight on scrutiny, let scrutiny do its work and let scrutiny report properly. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Reid, and then I'll come back in myself.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the intention was to, the meeting of the 1st of December of the Scrutiny Committee decided that we wanted to have a kind of a wash-up debrief, deep dive into what had happened, and we instruct the officers to do a report for us and then come up with a timetable, which I think the leader's already indicated. So the meeting next week will set up the actual workings of that, and we will be getting on with it, and I would hope that everyone who wants to say something can either write to us or turn up to us and either be part of the kind of investigation panel or just deliver the evidence that they want to deliver. It's up to us next week, the people on that scrutiny committee, to decide exactly how we're going to do that. There is a report that I've got to kind of okay when I get home tonight, so hopefully you'll get that tomorrow at some point. And I just wanted to go on to say that you all know that I hate motions, but if I was ever going to vote for one, I'd vote for this one, because Councillor Bridget has almost converted me. It's well written, it's concise, it tells us what it wants us to do. It's concise and it gives us direction. So thank you very much. So, but I would say that we talked about all of this in the meeting on the 1st of December, and I always value Councillor Bridget's contributions in any meetings that we attend. It's always interesting to have his point of view, but unfortunately on this occasion, for whatever reason, he couldn't make it. But yeah, well, there we are. This is not a criticism of you at all, Councillor Bridget. All I'm saying is that, as far as I'm concerned, I hope you do all vote for this, but obviously, as custom and practice, I won't be.
Okay, I'm going to have my own say, and I'll go to Councillor Dickinson. It would be remiss of me, given that plaudits are put to Councillor Bridget, to mention some other councillors I know who have done a sterling work in very vast wards. And I'm going to mention Councillor Mather, and I'm going to mention Councillor Jones, and I'm going to mention Councillor Patterson, I'm going to mention Councillor Sanderson, and I'm going to mention Councillor Horncastle. And I have no doubt there are other councillors who went well above and beyond what their role as a councillor in the minimum definition is, in order to work with their communities. And I've no doubt that there are other councillors who I haven't learned their stories about, and I'd like to, if you want to email me and tell me, or say what went on, and also the people in the community, because if we shouldn't just backslap ourselves, because there's so many people in the community, unsung people who went above and beyond. So I just want to add that and state that, and I'll go back to the debate. So I'll go to Councillor Dickinson, then Councillor Grimshaw.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, now that we are in the debate and we reflect on Storm Arwen and the decisions that were made by the council and the fantastic response that our officers, volunteers and staff who came in from leave to support residents, because they genuinely care about the residents of Northumberland and the people that they work for. I think it is also very important that we recognise the third sector infrastructure and all the volunteers and just neighbours who were good to one another and supported one another, because in these events that will continue to happen, we need to ensure that we have the infrastructure to cope. One of the clear things 2 weeks on from this, with many properties in my ward still without power and then supplied with inadequate generators, etc., where a lot of the infrastructure was World War II and had no investment for decades. And this is the type of event that will continue to happen. They will become more frequent, and I applaud and welcome the route in which Councillor Sanderson and Bridget have brought this. We as a Labour group will participate and play a full role, because it's not just rural areas that were hit badly, it's not coastal areas, it's not the southeast corner, it was everywhere. There were multiple problems everywhere, and we are talking about people who are very vulnerable, people who didn't know how to get support, and I think I could probably say, hand on heart, every member in this room will have played a part at some point in making sure that they were there to provide information or support to somebody that needed it during those times. But I think it's fundamental that we do recognise the issues that were from the utility companies, the lack of communication, the lack of investment, and all the other issues that related to things well outside our control or ability to fix. But we were the ones there as a council, as a community, to respond and make that difference to those people that were in dire circumstances. So I wholly support the motion and the amended section.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, obviously we support the motion and the amendment, but I find it difficult to, when you're actually naming individuals who went above and beyond. Every single member that's sitting in here today, town and parish councillors, went above and beyond. So if you want a list of everybody that did anything during the storm events and what we've suffered mentally as well, listening to some of the people who were heartbroken, I think I can supply you with a list. Thank you, Chair.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask if Councillor Bridget could be clear and state what you add to alter this motion, because that's what we're voting on, an altered motion. So can you state clearly the alteration to it, please?
Yes, I would like to add an additional sentence, which is along the lines of that this council thanks the hard work and efforts during Storm Arwen that were put in by both Northumberland County Council staff, Northumberland Fire and Rescue Service, Northumbria Police, Armed Forces personnel, local councillors, both county and town, volunteers and neighbours, and anyone else who assisted in helping keep the residents of Northumberland safe and well.
And to be clear, is that being added to the end?
That's being added to the end.
Thank you very much. So that's what we're going to vote upon. Are we going to, do we just move to a show of hands here, unless anyone wishes to do anyway? Do we, show of hands if you support the motion? No. So that's in voting in favour of the motion. I think we can remove, put your hands. Those against? Those abstaining? You're not doing any of them. I remember you've said this before, so that's fine. Okay, thank you very much then. I'll go on and thank you for the motion. I go on to the next motion, which is from sorry?
Right, do we not then vote on the...
No, it was we've...
Yeah. So, Chair, just for the chamber and for the room, as it's your motion, you altered the motion, you added that, not as much detail as you did at the end, but I think the chamber consented for you to be able to add that, and they debated it. I thought, sorry, you haven't had a right of reply, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to it. I'm happy, because I'm conscious of time, so I'll leave it. Everyone's agreed. I wanted to speak to, I had a few things to say, but I will feed them into the scrutiny committee.
Yeah, I think you should allow, Chair, it's your meeting.
It
does need a right of reply. I'm really sorry, I didn't realise. Yeah.
No, I just had a few words to say. I think it's been covered. Everyone's agreed it. I'm conscious of the time today, so it's done what it needed to do. I'll
take that as your right of reply. Okay, thank you. Right. Try and get the next one right, Barry. Let's go to motion number 2. Councillor Morford. Yes. I'll just wait for Councillor Derek Kennedy to... Yeah, if you go that way, and we'll just call you back when we're ready. Councillor Morford.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to propose that this council demonstrates its support for responsible tax conduct by approving the Fair Tax Foundation's Councils for Fair Tax Declaration. The Fair Tax Foundation is a not-for-profit social enterprise which formed in 2014 and is based in Manchester. Through their Fair Tax Mark accreditation scheme, they recognise businesses that pay the right amount of tax at the right time and in the right place. Many well-known businesses have become accredited, including FTSE-listed companies such as SSE, high street names such as the Co-op, Richer Sounds, the Leeds Building Society, Timpson and Lush, various utility companies, the TUC and Ethical Consumer magazine. Councils can demonstrate their support for responsible tax conduct by approving the Councils for Fair Tax Declaration, and 17 councils from Exeter to Edinburgh have done so to date, including several in the North East. So why does responsible tax conduct matter? Well, as you'll see from the first part of the motion, the public are genuinely concerned about corporate tax avoidance, and 63% of people think that central and local government alike should consider a company's ethics and tax conduct when they make procurement decisions. Despite this level of concern, 17.5% of public contracts involve companies with links to tax havens, and at least £7 billion per year is lost to multinational profit shifting, which is just one form of tax avoidance. That's £7 billion per year that could have been used to fund better local services. Before I go any further, I'd just like to make sure we all understand the difference between legitimate tax planning, tax evasion and tax avoidance. Legitimate tax planning is the perfectly acceptable use of tax reliefs in the way that they were intended to be used. Tax evasion is illegal, full stop. Tax avoidance is legal, but it's against the intent and spirit of the law. It's not okay. Action on tax evasion and tax avoidance is needed at all levels of government. Fortunately, there has been a change in the political tone as a result of the huge tax avoidance scandals of recent years, such as the Panama Papers and the Paradise Papers. The EU has recommended that the Public Contracts Directive is revised to allow a company's tax conduct to be taken into account during procurement, and it's drawn up a blacklist of tax havens. The OECD has agreed a minimum level of corporation tax for large multinationals and a mechanism to make sure that at least some of the profits of the largest companies are taxed in the countries in which they're made. Our own Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, is considering a digital sales tax that would enable bricks and mortar high street retailers to compete on a level playing field with tech giants who pay far lower business rates. The UK government has also recently announced that it intends to make all public suppliers publicly declare their beneficial ownership, whether those companies are based in the UK or elsewhere. And even closer to home, Northumbrian Water has just become the first water company to achieve Good Business Charter accreditation, one requirement of which is the demonstration of good tax conduct. What all of this means is that if we decide to approve the Councils for Fair Tax Declaration today, we'll be joining a very important regional, national and international movement that seeks to make poor tax conduct a thing of the past. Poor corporate tax conduct is an issue that transcends party politics. The Councils for Fair Tax Declaration has been approved by Labour councils in North and South Tyneside. The motion to approve it was proposed by a Lib Dem group in Oldham, and the same motion was seconded by a Lib Dem councillor in Sunderland, both councils going on to approve the declaration. The declaration has also been approved by a Conservative council in Peterborough, and furthermore, a study showed that 90% of the people who voted Conservative in the last general election agreed that tax avoidance is morally wrong, even if it's legal. You might be wondering whether the Council is already doing enough, and why it's so important that the Council approves the Councils for Fair Tax Declaration today. Well, the Social Value Act does require local authorities to consider how procurement might improve the economic, social and environmental well-being of the area, but it doesn't cover tax conduct. And furthermore, procurement rules don't allow a local authority to exclude a company from a procurement exercise for poor tax conduct, unless it can be shown to have obtained a competitive advantage or to be guilty of grave professional misconduct. The Councils for Fair Tax Declaration encourages councils to do everything that they can within the existing framework to promote responsible tax conduct and tax transparency, and to join the call for reform of procurement rules.
I've spoken to Pam Heintoff, our Head of Procurement, since I submitted this motion on the 20th of December, and I'm very pleased to say that she's very supportive. She's provided me with the following statement, which I'd like to suggest that we add to the motion as point number 7 in the full council notes that section. The Procurement Service supports the motion in principle to ensure that the council can do what it can to promote greater tax transparency from suppliers, subject to completing legal due diligence before implementation. Pam went on to say that she would like to understand how this commitment would be monitored, and I've been advised by the Fair Tax Foundation that it's a self-guided process and that individual councils are welcome to decide on their own proportionate approach to implementation and monitoring. Thank you for listening. I very much hope that you feel you can support this motion today.
Okay, before I go any further, I'm taking it you've provided an alteration to the motion in a similar manner to how Councillor Bridget somehow eventually did. So, am I right in stating I should be seeking a seconder to that altered motion right now? I can see Councillor Swinbank is seconding that altered motion.
And that's what you've done.
Now,
Thank you, Chair.
I think we're ready to move to a debate on that altered motion. Yes, Councillor Swinbank.
Thank you. I run a small business and I pay my tax according to the letter and the spirit of the law. It pays for services, health, education, social care, environmental protection and national defence, amongst other things. I see it as a social contract with the state and with society and expect others to do the same. When a council spends this public money, it has a responsibility to do that wisely. Part of the equation is ensuring that council suppliers pay their fair share of tax. There's an old saying in engineering that the best engineers build up to a standard and not down to a price. This can be more widely applied. The companies which work up to a standard, including on tax, will almost always deliver a better service and a better outcome. These are the companies the council should be working with or aiming to work with, so I support the fair tax motion today.
Okay, do we have anyone else who wishes to contribute to this debate? Councillor Shelvin and then Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. I listened to both the councillors as they are moving the motion. So I totally agree with the spirit of the motion, completely. But I'm slightly concerned about the implementability of this motion if it goes through. If you look at the 9th point in our resolution, full council resolves to penalize poor tax conduct and reward good tax conduct. So how we are going to judge? Who is going to judge? A particular company A is having a poor tax conduct. Therefore, we should not give any contract to that company. And company B, on the other hand, is doing very well in terms of taxation. Therefore, we should reward. Will we not be able, maybe we may become liable to discrimination on that grounds? So all these details, I think I would like to know what are the details behind this. Thank you.
Okay, I've got Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. I had similar thoughts to Paul, but I thought the amendment saying sort of in principle and subject to the law, in my mind anyway, covered that. So I would just say that I support that with the amendment by the proposer. A very just cause to have a fairer tax system. And what I would say, and I'd be happy to have conversations with you and others, I know that the Green Party elsewhere in the country are, in Norwich and Islington and so on, have put forward motions for a universal basic income trial. And I think that there's been some very interesting discussions at the LGA, and I think that would be something else to develop. But I certainly support the proposal with the amendment to cover the practicalities and the legal side.
Okay, Councillor Reid.
I don't know why you're kind of all holding your breath. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, for me, we've gone from the sublime first motion to a ridiculous second motion, and it just... what I don't like, I hate these cut and paste, insert name of council here motions that you can pick up off the internet. When you look at what the council is being asked to do here, in which has already been mentioned, the difficulty of tracking any of this. So, if you pass this, it will just disappear like all the other things you've passed and never hear from again. You know, nobody ever writes back to us. Nobody, you know, nobody takes any notice. I bet nobody's written to the Labour group of the LGA to tell them we've got a parental leave policy now either. So, if you... So I'm running out of steam. You know, you've beaten me. Perhaps I should just admit defeat. But number 3, ensure contracts implement RI 35 robustly and pay a fair share of employment taxes. Well, we're all in favour of everybody paying the tax that we owe. I've proudly filled my self-assessment form in for the last 20 years and been proud to pay the amounts of money that the government asks me for, because it supports the society that I live in and I love. But how are we going to ensure contractors implement IR 35 robustly? Are we going to stick a little box on the form that we ask them to fill in, and all they have to do is say, oh yes, we'll do that? How are we ever going to prove? How much is it going to cost us? I think is probably what all this boils down to. It's a very high principle thing, and I would endorse and plead for everybody to pay the taxes that are due, because that's what enables us to live the life we have, and to support poorer people and to pay pensions. But the amount of money, if you're actually, because what will happen is if you pass this, it'll just disappear into the system. And unless one of you keeps standing up every month and saying, you know, tell me where we are with this, no one will ever refer to it again. What we should actually do, I think, we should take one of the committees, say the petitions committee, and turn it into a petitions and motions committee. And if motions like this get passed, the content should be sent to that committee, and they should monitor what we actually do about any of this. Because it really, honestly, I'm sorry, but if you pass this, nothing will change. And it will run into the sand, and nothing will ever come of it. We will never robustly ensure employers robustly implement RI 35. It's just not going to happen. So, Merry Christmas.
Councillor Wearmouth.
Thank you.
And then Councillor Dickinson. Sorry, I forgot you. I will come back.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. I think that's an excellent idea. Can you undertake to bring a motion to that effect next time?
We'll have to get somebody else to do that, Councillor Wearmouth.
You'd have to get someone to second it. Councillor Dickinson.
I'm a little bit worried about myself because I feel like I'm having a little bit of sympathy with Councillor Reid here. We absolutely agree with the principle of the motion. We are appalled at some of the tax avoidance measures and the way in which bad corporations exist. Some of this is out with the control of us. I think it wasn't this easy to get a pregnancy parental leave policy through a council. We had to take it away. We had to look at it. We had to look at the implications. We had to look at the policies. We had to bring it back. You know, we as a group are in favour of many of these points, lots of these sanctions and a far better tax system. And Councillor Hill's right, there are some very successful trials of a minimum income base down south which are things to be looked at. I mean, I would just urge that this motion was given the opportunity to survive by being withdrawn at the Chair's discretion with the motion proposer and taken to a relevant committee so it can come back with the right policy behind it that can allow some, even if it's not all of it, some of it to continue in a way that can be monitored, managed, and actually we feel good that we've been able to tackle some of the issues that are raised in here, but we can do it in a way that we can actually do it, rather than a good motion with good points falling into a system that can't be implemented. I just think it needs to be taken back, go through the process we went through with the parental leave motion and come back with the information.
I was just going to come in because you mentioned, and I got Councillor Daly and then Councillor Dale, but you mentioned about it being withdrawn with my permission. I think that would have to be, the proposer would have to withdraw it. But
sorry, I did say with the Chair and the proposers.
I think, yeah, but that, I'll come to that if we come to that. I'm going to go to Councillor Daly, then Councillor Dale.
Thank you, Chair. Can we make this the art of the possible? There is nothing in here which we shouldn't agree with. Even the section which Councillor Shelvin mentioned about having sanctions against organisations says supporting calls for urgent reform of the UK tax law. We could request that. It's fine. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. We're going to request it. But the good news is, so let's make this the art of the possible, is that our procurement team was referenced here at the council. Well, that's the same procurement team which, by the way, deals with the legislation around modern slavery requirements, quality measures such as equality and diversity, environmental impact, and health and safety at work. All very simple measures when we come to award contracts. The art of the possible, if we're simply asking for an assessment around tax, people pay their tax, it's a fair tax, then that is something which is absolutely possible. And really, if we want this to progress and we're serious about it, we've got the leader here. All we need is someone in the cabinet to take this on as an initiative, as a project, to see it through. And unlike other councils, we will actually do it as opposed to talking about it. And I do agree with Councillor Reid, a petition, and what is it you said, a petition and something committee, but whatever. I just do think let's not kick this in the long grass. Let's just get on with it. It's actually sensible to do, and I'll be supporting it.
Councillor Dale.
Thank you. Just to mention one or two things, and I think that Councillor Daly has already said what I was going to say as well. But I think there is an opportunity for the council to look carefully at things we can make a difference at, looking at. Unfortunately, there are levels. I mean, we've obviously the government legislation, but also you're talking about international tax here as well. And that is something very different and something that we possibly can't make a difference at. But I think if we could take it and take forward, even starting with one or two things where we can make a difference and look at it, that would be a start. And I think that would be welcomed by everybody.
Okay. Right. I don't think I have any more speakers. Did Councillor Morford wish to sum up?
Thank you. I'll be happy to answer a couple of questions. I think Councillor Daly has more or less covered Councillor Chelvin's question about point number 9. He was asking who will identify the companies with poor tax conduct. In actual fact, this declaration doesn't commit the council to identifying companies with poor tax conduct. That would actually be against procurement regulations. The declaration simply commits councils to encouraging their suppliers to voluntarily improve their tax conduct. And as Councillor Daly pointed out, it also encourages the council to push for reform of procurement law. In answer to Councillor Reid's questions on IR35, the IR35 commitment in this declaration, it doesn't actually require the council to go any further than it's already legally required to do. It's just a reaffirmation of existing requirements mandated by law, and compliance with IR35 will already be well embedded in the council's practices. And in answer to your question about whether this will just disappear, I'll make sure it doesn't.
Okay, and I note there's no desire for you to withdraw this motion.
No, there isn't.
I just wish to clarify that. And the second thing I need you to clarify is how can you just re-clarify your alteration to the motion, please?
Thank you. So I'd like to add the following sentence as point number 7 in the first section under full council notes that the procurement service supports the motion in principle to ensure that the council can do what it can to promote greater tax transparency from suppliers, subject to completing legal due diligence before implementation.
Okay, being proposed, it's been seconded. I'm going to see, do we wish to move to a vote? Can I say all those in favour, could you show your hands? All those against? All those abstaining? One there. And then anywhere else just isn't voting. Okay, that motion has passed then. Thank you very much for that. Right, I've had a request for a comfort break. So it is 16:47 now. Shall I say 5 o'clock or is that too long? Too long, right. 5-2, 16:55. I am going to go to item 16 on the agenda, which, not 16, I beg your pardon, it says item 16 here, but it's a political proportionality report. Which, is that item 16? It is item 6. It says item 16, but item 16's report is a different item.
I think the report has the wrong item agenda on it, Chair.
It does, doesn't it? It is.
Which report do you want to take?
It's the political proportionality report I wish to take.
I've got item 12.
Item 12. And it's points. Where is it on the... Lost where it is.
Because there are different numbers on the website. So what you want to do is there's the two constitutional amendments, and this was item 15.
Right, okay. It's been superseded by this report. So it
Yeah.
should be item...
And then this
Right.
also needs amendment.
Right. Bear with me 2 seconds, I want to get it right.
We're not recording, are we?
You presenting this report?
No, Councillor Luna.
Councillor Luna, right, okay.
Oh, I hope he would. This one's slightly changed.
It's item 15, I'll come to it. Do bear with me, I'm making sure I get what I do correct. Fire away.
It's just we received a report placed in front of us when we came in. Leaders received a report on an email earlier in the day. We received a report at 3:10, and now we've just been given another report that's different,
Right.
which is a...
I will clarify that when I start the meeting, okay?
And that's all the same one titled proportionality. So we've got 4 versions.
Right. I'm going to actually go to 12.1 first, then I will go to proportionality because it makes more sense. So I'll go to item 12.1 on the agenda, which is re-endorse of appointment of independent chair of standards committee and independent person and appointments of additional independent persons, page 119. And that's Councillor Wearmouth. Are you all right to present that?
Yes, thank you, Chair, very much. And so This is the, as you said, the re-endorsement of the appointment of the independent chair of Standards Committee and independent persons, and the appointment of additional independent persons, as per the report title there. The purpose of the report is to seek the Council's endorsement and the continued appointment of Joe Jackson, who is the... sorry, I'm getting some feedback from somewhere. Where was I? The independent chair of standards, and Karen Milner, the council's independent person under the relevant provisions of the Localism Act 2011, and request that the council delegates to the standards committee the process of appointing 2 further independent persons, and you've got recommendations before you, which I'll summarise before just saying a little bit more. And the recommendations, just for clarity, are to endorse the continued appointment of the following for the remaining terms of their 4-year appointment. So these people already are in these roles and they're continuing in their roles, and that's the independent chair, Mr. Joe Jackson, an independent person, Ms. Carol Milner, and then, as I said earlier, to delegate to the Standards Committee, in conjunction with the monitoring officer, the appointment of 2 further independent persons. And then C, should any consequential constitutional amendments be required, that this be delegated to the monitoring officer in conjunction with the advisory members' constitutional working group. You may sort of, if you want to understand a little bit more about that, obviously it's been detailed in the reports. Effectively, this gives the committee a bit more freedom in that if people aren't available to sit on the committee, whether it's COVID, whether it's other personal circumstances that are preventing them from attending, that there's some flexibility and ability of people to come onto that committee to allow it to proceed in a timely fashion. I don't have any other particular comments to make on the report, which hopefully is self-explanatory. I don't know if any officers want to add anything to that. I shall leave it at that.
Councillor Dickinson, you have your hand up.
Yep, it was just to say no issue with recommendation A, I or II. Issue with recommendation B and C, because I did indicate in the very first meeting with the monitoring officer that I wish to see the recruitment process that would be used to recruit the independent persons, and I just feel that with delegating that at this stage without having sight of that or it being provided to me, we couldn't support the delegation to the monitoring officer on that basis. But for the rest of the report and the re-endorsement of the people you reference, Councillor Wearmouth, no issue with that.
Yeah, I think our monitoring officer wishes to respond.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Dickinson, for that. With regard to B, it is mentioned in the body of the report that a recruitment process will take place, comprising of an interviewing panel with the members of the Standing Committee. It will follow the same process as before, which is it will be advertised, it will be open to external competition, and it will be with the members of the Standards Committee. So that process is there already. And with regard to C, it's a belt and braces delegation. I'm quite happy if you don't want me to have that delegation, but it is actually to pick up inconsistencies in the Constitution, such as if you look at page 26 in Article 9, under the Standards Committee, it actually states proportionality, which will change. So that's what that delegation is for, following the report on proportional representation, to actually either decide we don't want proportionality in our articles because they do change, or if we do, then they do need amending.
Follow up, Councillor Dickinson.
Yes, if I may, Chair. Oh, sorry, I forgot to take that off. A bit muffled. In relation to that very short, brief statement, it does say how the process would work. What I did explain was that I haven't seen the process that was used to recruit the people that we currently have, and that was a valuable piece of information whilst delegating this to the committee and the monitoring officer. And those are the points I'm simply making. No need for any concern around them. That is just my and my group's opinion on the recruitment process and the information I had tried to get so that I could support this moving forward.
Can you come back in?
Chair, if you would like me to. Councillor Dickinson, more than happy to find what process was used last time, what adverts were used last time, what happened last time, and circulate it to members of the chamber so that you're aware what the council did. And it was obviously before my time, you know, so that you're aware of what actually happened when we recruited the two independent persons, Mr Jackson and Miss Milner.
Councillor Hill.
Thank you. On 12I, the re-endorsement appointment of the Independent Chair of Standards Committee and independent person, that we are at the 2-year mark, and that's fine by me. In terms of appointment of additional independent persons, and I think the minute has been shared 2 years ago, I think I was the only one that was advocating having extra independent persons. Other people said they were happy with one. So in principle, I support that. Like Councillor Dickinson, I always like to see the process so it's robust and independent. You know, if people aren't getting their mates in and so on. The one thing that I just wanted to particularly clarify: are you seeking delegation to manage the process and the recruitment process, which is obviously is not something the full council can do. We're not going to have an interview panel, full council. But in terms of, you refer to the Localism Act 2011, it does say, section 28, that approval of independent persons has to be by the majority of members of the council, so in other words, the full council. So are you saying it's the process that would be the standards committee, but obviously it would be up to full council to presumably agree, but potentially not agree? Is that what you're saying?
Chair, may I respond through you? Absolutely correct. That is what I'm saying. You know, what is missing from there is perhaps a clarity to say, to delegate to Standards Committee the process of interviewing, which is highlighted in paragraph 3, the process that the Standards Committee are going to take in conjunction with the monitoring officer.
And can I just ask one more quick thing, because I'm generally content with this in that case, and I presume the process would be shared in the proper way with the group leaders and just make this robust. Was there any thoughts why you're going for 2 additional, not 1 additional independent person? I don't have any strong feelings on that, but I'd just be interested to know why it's extra 2, not an extra 1.
Chair, again through you. We actually have 1 at the moment. And for a size of authority of this nature, you know, in my experience, having 3 or 4 is good. And actually, you know, in future, you may want to look at sharing your independence with other local authorities in the North East. But for now, you know, I do think and recommend that having 3 is a good size for the size of this local authority.
Okay, is there any more points questions to ask? I can see no hands up. So I think we need to move to a vote, don't we?
This is on 12I.
This is on 12I, yeah. This is on 12.1. Yes, to confirm, because it's been asked to me, so say it through the microphone. This is on agenda item 12.1, which is on page 119 of your agenda, all the way through to 122. So we've got those recommendations. Do we agree to those recommendations? Agreed. Do I need a formal vote on that, or am I okay to set that? Do I need to propose or second it? Or are we happy? That's fine. Just want to get procedure right. Yeah, I'm looking at anyone. So advise me. Do I need to propose or a second, or are we happy with that vote like that?
Yep, it's show of hands.
Fine, that's fine. Okay, we'll set that then.
Sorry, I think Councillor Wearmouth proposed it. I'm not quite sure who seconded it.
Yes, I did propose it for my report.
Chair, who seconded
Councillor Stewart seconded it. Okay.
Just, yeah, for procedure. Thank you.
Okay, I'm now going to move on to what is described in here as agenda item 15 in your pack. However, I think it's been superseded by another paper which has agenda item 16 at the top, which is actually a typo, and that should be agenda item 15. And I believe, and I'm going to get it correct, it is this paper here, am I keeping kept correct here, which is entitled Report to County Council, agenda item 16, date 5th January 2022, Political Proportionality Report of the Monitoring Officer, and that is a 4-page handout which you had here. Now, I think there may be a couple of changes to this.
So the 2-page handout, because I've got two saying exactly the same, so it's the 4-page rather than the 2-page one. Because I've got two.
Okay, I've got the right one. Is it this one here with a chart on the back? Yeah, I had the wrong one out. So I was reading the right thing because it's exactly the same on it, but it's this one that goes to, I beg your pardon, it has got the appendix on it. So you've got page 1, 2, 3, 4, then appendix pages, and there are 4 appendix pages, one of which is blank. So that is the one we are referring to. And now is, would it be yourself? I believe Councillor Wearmouth's going to present this. You're proposing the second bit, so you propose it.
Absolutely. So, just before, is there any additional supporting documentation for this one in terms of advice, or are we going to present the report first?
Yeah, I can support the process, if you like, when you're ready.
No, I'm ready. Right, okay. So, thank you, Chair. This report deals with proportionality, political proportionality on the various committees, and there's a report here from the monitoring officer to do that. And the purpose of the report is to determine the political proportionality and of the registered political groups on the council, and to allocate seats on committees in accordance with that proportionality, and that is in accordance with the provisions of sections 15, 16 of the Local Government and Housing Act 1989, which is the relevant legislation. And the recommendations are as follows. Note that following the Hexham East by-election, thank you, Councillor Reid, and welcome to your colleague as well, and notify changes to the independent group. Good luck to you all.
We're a church of many faiths, Rich.
You are a fascinating bunch. And that's entirely complimentary, Councillor Pritchett. I don't know if I want it minuted. The total number of councillors in each political group on the County Council are as follows. Conservatives 33, Labour 21, Independents 6, Liberal Democrats 4, Greens 2 and 1 ungrouped independent member. The second part confirms that the political proportionality of the groups was as follows. Conservatives 49.25%, Labour 31.34%, Independents 8.95%, Liberal Democrats 5.97%, and the Greens 2.89%.
8-9.
Is it? My apologies. I'm struggling with my eyes. Approves the provision of Appendix 1, which sets out the proportional allocation of places on committees in accordance with the proportionality approved above. Approves the allocation of seats to the committees of the Council in accordance with the Appendix 2, and delegates to the monitoring officer to appoint members to fill the seats allocated to the political groups in accordance with the nominations of the group leaders, and that's the important word. It's just to make sure that if you're looking at different versions, it's nominations, not the wishes. I think nominations being more explicit and clear. Looking at some of the supporting text. We're all aware of the situation that the council finds itself in terms of the proportions on each group. And then if you look to the back, there's a fine summary of exactly how these things are worked out, which I've become more expert than I could ever have hoped to imagine in terms of the amount of back and forth that there's been to make sure that it's correct. And it's all in the table there in terms of how it's worked out. And that translates in turn into the sheet at the back. And that's the one that defines who's sitting on what in terms of political parties. And so you can see that it's broken down in terms of the various names of the committees, the current membership of those committees, and then the political proportionality that's reflected within them.
Yeah, I believe the monitoring officer wishes to come in at this point.
Thank you. I'm finished anyway.
Chair, through you, there is another mistake that on the printed version on Appendix 2 right at the end. The Petitions Committee should be 9, Staff and Appointments Committee should be 9, Standards Committee should be 9. As I understand, this council increased the number last May or July. I don't know which committee council it was. However, it hasn't been changed in the Constitution.
And it ought to have been written at that time. Is that what you're saying? Okay, I've got a proposal. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Renner-Thompson, thank you very much. I've got Councillor Reid, then I've got Councillor Bridget, then I've got Councillor Hill, and I've got Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Reid.
Thank you. I'm looking at Appendix 2 and the list at the back of the thing, and I heard the monitoring officer just mention this, but I'm confused now. I've filled more of these forms in than you've had at dinners over the past couple of days. But anyway, what it says, committees of 9 petitions, standards, staffing and appointments, and on the sheet, its standards is down as 8. So, which is it?
I think it's just been explained standards.
Yeah, well, I heard all that, but my ears have shut down now. So is the Appendix 2 correct and the proportionality sheet wrong? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Chair, through you. Now, Appendix 1 is your proportionality table, which is the maths, which actually relates. If you look at the recommendations, recommendation 2 gives you your proportionality, and that is broken into the allocations on places on committees in accordance with the proportionality, which is approved above, and that's what Appendix 1 is. That's your percentages and your numbers and your seats.
Yeah,
and then
with respect, all I need you to tell me is Appendix 2 says committees of 9 includes standards, but the sheet on the back says it's only got 8. So which is it?
Councillor, yes.
To try and...
You're right. It is 9.
It is 9.
Excellent. Well, that was easy, wasn't it?
So, just to be clear, Councillor Reid, the proposal is for 9. So, you remember at the previous council meeting, the number was changed to 9. Okay? As the monitoring officer said, the Constitution hasn't caught up with that, and that's something that needs to be amended just as a piece of housekeeping. But ultimately, the decision here in front of you that you'll make on the basis of this report is 9. Yeah?
That's absolutely fine. Thank you very much.
Councillor Bridget.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can't vote in favour of this, not least because I think it's the 4th document I'm seeing of this, which is the most recent one was just on my chair when I came back after the comfort break. The one that I was issued with on Friday, I spent most of yesterday going through the figures so I could understand them. And as I highlighted in an email that I shared with all members last night, the proportionality didn't add up. And the case in point, and I mean no disrespect to the Liberal Democrats when I say this, the report that was issued on Friday said that they got a 3.73% increase, which meant they had 14 committee places, just behind the independent group, which had 15, which didn't add up for me. I'm now being told that that's actually not a 3.73 increase, it's 0.36. And they get 10, which kind of sounds right, but I need to check the figures before I would agree to it. And the Greens, this is on the second last sheet, the Green Party, it says it is 2.98%, whereas on the front of the report it says 2.89. I can't vote in favour of it until I've checked the figures for myself because I don't have confidence in them.
The nominating officer wishes to clarify.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Chamber and Councillor Bridget, the report that Councillor Flux circulated on Friday is a cover report, exactly the same as this, that goes with your schedule that was published with the papers from 139. And this report that's circulated by email to you today and on your chair has the following amendments. At 5, the delegation says rather than the wishes of the group, it's the nominations. Delegation 6 and 7 has been removed from the one that was circulated on Friday after consultation with group leaders and groups. It was a belt and braces delegation, but however, members felt that it was delegating too far to an officer, which is absolutely fine to remove, and it can, any other proportionality issues can come back to this council. The other amendment from the one that you had that was circulated on Friday is the Petitions Committee, the Staff and Appointments Committee and Standards should show as 9, which was clarified. Now, if members wish, you can have 10-15 minutes with the permission of the Chair to view this, and go, because they are the only differences from Friday. And Chair, it's entirely up to you if members wish to have some time to look at this.
Point of clarification, Mr. Chair, they are not the only differences from the Friday report. The percentages are different, and I will go into my email. If I have to, but the report on Friday stated the Liberal Democrats, as a result of one extra member, went up 3.73%, and that resulted in 14 committee places, just behind the independents on 15, which is why I didn't know how that worked, which is why I spent yesterday breaking down the figures to try and work it out. It's now being said that it is only a 0.36% increase, and they only get 10 places. What I'm saying is, with having so many revised versions of this report, and only having done the figures, this is for myself here, only having checked the figures based on the report on Friday and not having time to check the ones that I have just been presented with in this latest report, I cannot vote in favour of this.
Do you wish to clarify further?
Yeah, sorry, I should have also said that the report that was circulated on Friday had the figures of a grievance committee had you chosen to create one. However, as this report on the agenda isn't, well, it was after that, that's why it was placed with the grievance committee. However, as the monitoring officer, I said you cannot approve something on proportionality if you haven't created it. So the grievance committee was taking out, and that's made a difference in the figures. Yeah, and that's
It doesn't make sense. By 4 places, that doesn't add up. The Liberal Democrats were on 14, they're now on 10.
I think I'll just take the point that you've made. Fair enough. Councillor Hill.
Sorry, can I just first clarify what's happened to? I know you can sometimes jump around like whole agenda items for whatever reason. What's happening to 12.2?
I will clarify that after this agenda item.
Because to be perfectly honest,
I've just said I'll clarify after.
Okay,
I think that's the best thing
I'm making a point on
yes,
this.
you can make your point on that,
Thank you.
but I will clarify that straight after.
Right,
and I'll be
okay.
straight with you on that. Okay.
I mean, if anyone is still watching this, right? Sorry, could I speak without members of the administration being disrespectful and groaning and so on?
I would like to be able to hear people, so can I say that, can we let people speak, and then we'll move on to if anyone wishes to say anything. Councillor Dunn, I've noted your hand up. I will go to you next, and I'll go to Councillor Dickinson just before I let you back in, okay?
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Kennedy as well.
Can I this, I hate to say it, but this has been completely shambolic, getting emails about all sorts of agendas items, different calculations, papers coming out. And it's not just an appalling way to run a council. It does seem like attempts to bamboozle and confuse. I don't trust what's going on, to be perfectly honest. You were very honest, Chair. I'll give you credit when we talked about moving these committees up to 9. What's the reason why it? And you said, I'll put my hands up. It's political. It's political to have 9 because we'll have the majority. I thought, fair enough, Barry's been honest there. That's fine. There's a bit of bad luck that, from your point of view, that the Lib Dems won the by-election and you've lost overall control. And then there seemed to be attempts to, let's move it back to 8 then. So,
No.
You need to clarify that.
But you need to clarify, because that's not happened, has it?
Well,
that's what. Hence
well,
why these
we might be a
points are
few
going
changes because you've worked out what you're going to get away with. But can I ask on the question? But it's interesting, you know, the people in favour and the people that turned up for once for a meeting and so on. But in terms of the petitions committee for 9, so the proposal involves 9, what is the make-up of that? 4 Conservatives, 2 Labour, 1 Lib Dem and 1 Independent for those committees. Is that the make-up for those?
Chair, if you look at the sheet, Councillor Hill, Appendix 1, for every, so if you just take a look at that one,
Which appendix?
it goes, Appendix 1, proportionality table, revised as of today.
So it is.
So in the number, the column, is the number of people on a committee. Yeah?
No, sorry, just to confirm, very clear, I'm not looking at any sheets. If there's 9 people on the standards, which you confirmed as part of the proposal, could you just say how many Conservatives, how many Labour and how many Independents? I'm not asking to look at a sheet, could you just confirm verbally to me what those numbers are?
You can see it in the table.
No, I want you just to say, it's very important when we're voting things to be clear, but because it's very confusing. Just tell me 9, simple.
Councillor Hill, I'm sorry if I'm being confused. I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
Right, can you verbally just say?
So look in the column, it says number of people on a committee, 9, and then it says Conservatives, and there is the proportionality across that table, 4 for the Conservatives, Labour is 3, Indies, that's your group, 1, Liberal Democrats, 1.
Right, so that is 4 Conservatives, 3 Labour, 1, okay.
Thank you, and thank you've given us an opportunity to say we haven't changed that to our advantage. We have been very fair. We've kept it at 9. We could have, you know, if we were up to this kind of skullduggery which is talked about, we could have changed the number. So I'm very glad you gave us that opportunity to make that very, very clear.
And we believe that there's no shenanigans, I really do.
I didn't hear the last comment. What was it?
I said I really believe there's no shenanigans going on.
Well, that's good to hear.
Good to hear.
Thank you.
I had Councillor, right, I'm going to clarify, the Councillor Kennedy, then Councillor Dunn, then Councillor Dickinson. So Councillor Kennedy.
Sorry, Chair, I think I was next.
No, you weren't. Actually, I had my hand up, you just forgot. Sorry. Right. So looking at the final page, so Appendix 2. So I'm looking at the Appointments Committee, which is the first one. So you've got 4 elected members there, which is made up of Conservatives 2, Labour 1, Indy 1. And I'm then looking at, near the bottom, employment appeals from a pool of 20, which is 5. And that's made up of Conservatives 3, Labour 2. Now, I'm totally confused how, if a committee increases, that actually the independents lose a seat, and the Conservatives gain 1, and Labour gain 1, if it goes to 5, and the independents don't feature. I mean, that just does not make any sense whatsoever. How can a committee actually grow, and then the independent group actually lose a seat? That's just illogical to me. Question.
So, Councillor Kennedy, the number of people on the committee, it's 5.
Yeah.
And so you look at the number in the column.
Yes, I do.
5.
Yeah.
You look across and you do the maths. You'll be a much better accountant than I am.
I am, yeah. I've been an auditor for 20 years.
2.
So yeah. So what I'm asking is how come when there's a 4, there's an independent is 1. Yeah. But when you increase the group, that committee by 1 to 5, you actually lose an independent and you gain 1 Conservative and 1 Labour.
I think the answer is, and it's at 0.46. Conservatives are at 0.46. The independent group is at 0.45. And I stand to be corrected, but I think that's the logic, that 4.46 is bigger than 0.45.
So you take...
How on a committee, I think what Derek's saying is, and how on a committee of 5 can you have 3 Conservatives and 2 Labour, but on a committee of 4 you can have 2 Conservatives, 1 Labour and 1 Independent?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
It doesn't add up.
It does, it's a quirk of the maths. 2 plus 1 plus 1 is 4.
Oh, no, they add up.
Yeah.
But no, what we're saying is...
But how come there's no independent on a committee of 5, but there is on a committee of 4?
It's the Constitution. How come the independent group, when the group increases, the independent group loses a seat? But that's what I'm trying to get at.
I think we
They add up.
I think we
So it's just the maths, and I'm really sorry to, you're a much better mathematician than I am, but I'm sure. But look at the maths. So look at the number in front of the in front of what's actually then the allocation, and just go through it, and it's entirely logical.
I mean, I find that just amazing, to be honest.
Okay, I think your point's made.
Could I move an amendment then? Could I say, would it be wise if we made the Employment Appeals Committee a group of 6, which would then mean 3 Tories, 2 Labour, 1 Independent?
We could...
I don't think, would it... well, the paper's in front of you, I think.
No, I'll put
yeah,
an
and it has been for only an hour and a half.
Can I put an amendment up, monitoring officer?
It depends. So if you look through, I beg your pardon, Councillor Bridget. I certainly
Well, excuse
do.
me, I think you need to talk through the chair. We had members of your group complaining that other people were talking above them. They were quite correct to complain. It's a bit rum if other members of the group are suddenly doing the same. And I noticed your group leader nodding on that one.
I
So
agree. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
So, Chair, for you, if that's okay. The recommendations are set out before you, Councillor Kennedy. So it depends which recommendation you actually want to change. So, number 1 gives you your numbers. The second one gives you a percentage overall, divided by the overall. I'm not a mathematician. I can go. It's taking me ages to kind of just understand some of the things. I mean, Karen's a whiz at this, and so's Councillor Weirmouth.
No, I'm not.
And Appendix 1 tells you your seats, so that's percentage. So if you look at 2, if you look at a committee of 2...
Yeah, I understand. So I will, if I could move an amendment and say at item recommendation 3, I will ask that we, so on Appendix 1, that the Employment Appeals becomes a committee of 6, not 5. And similarly, appendix on item 4, appendix 2, that replicates that as well. So that committee becomes a committee of 6, not 5.
So which? Sorry,
I'm just taking the monitoring officer, which
Well,
sorry. I'd be slow to get my brain in gear after Christmas. Which committees was it? Sorry.
The Employment Appeals Committee. So it's currently a committee of 5. I'm saying let's increase that as a committee of 6. So it becomes a 3, 2 and a 1.
Yeah.
And that's it.
You just want to change one of them?
Yeah.
Why do you want to change that one?
Because it becomes politically balanced. Because at the moment, I think with the appointments and the employment appeals, as I've mentioned, this 4 and the 5, the loss of an independent when you go from 4 to a 5 doesn't look logical, and it just brings a better balance to that committee.
To the Liberal, well, Councillor Reid may wish to.
Right, I believe I've got... Am I right and correct? I've got an amendment to that and a seconder to that amendment.
But however, Chair, through you, I'm not quite sure what you're saying, because Appendix 1 you can't change, because that's the maths, that's the proportionality. You've got the committee. Are you saying you would like to change?
Sorry,
Appendix 2?
It's Appendix 2. I apologise. Yes, sorry, you're right. Yeah, Appendix 2. Appendix 2.
So what you're saying at Appendix 2, you would like to change the Employment Appeals Committee to become a committee of 6.
Yes. Apologies.
Whereas that.
So, well,
But firstly, I mean, we haven't approved 1, 2, and what you're proposing, Councillor Kennedy, it comes to, you haven't approved 3, it comes to 4.
Yeah.
So, firstly, I suggest, Chair, that you take the order of business as it stands, and when it comes to 4, you make a decision of what you want to do on.
Yeah.
If you get to that point.
Fine.
So, Councillor Kennedy, at that point, because otherwise you're jumping the
I'm
process.
going to take the opinion of the room. Are we happy to go for 1, 2 and 3 right now in a vote?
No, not without further discussion.
Point of clarification is this.
Point of clarification, because we've been told to trust some mathematical calculation, which seems a bit bizarre to me. Can I ask, and say no comment, I don't want to put anyone in an awkward position, but Democratic Services and other offices, and we've all agree with the calculation before us?
I'm going to go to the monitoring officer, and I think I can rule that question out of order. But
You can ask officers questions.
Ms. Cowan wants
Where
to
does it
answer.
say officers can't be asked questions? They can perfectly be entitled to they themselves say, I don't want comment or whatever, but can I ask? I'm asking that.
going to the monitoring officer for that.
Point of order, Chair.
Do you want to take the
You
point?
take the point of order.
Yeah, I believe I was in line to speak like 20 minutes ago.
You were?
Will I actually be called to speak?
You will be called to speak. You're next on the list, Councillor
Thank you.
Dunn. I think you need to talk to the independent group about that rather than me. So, I understand that.
I'm not quite sure what the advice Councillor Hill is seeking, so that will be quite good to understand. And Chair, through you, I have suggested if the Chamber is not happy with some of the figures, they take some time to actually, digest the figures rather than saying that they're not happy with them.
I'd be happy to take time and happy for this to be deferred, to be perfectly honest, and I can get the feeling that other people don't agree with this deferment, don't agree with this calculation.
Chair, can we withdraw this and come back to the next full council? This is ridiculous now.
A second, I'm about to say something. You're jumping one episode ahead on Netflix. Give me a
Well,
second.
it's about time we jumped in because you haven't got a clue what's going on here.
Excuse me.
It's disgraceful.
I will take anything said against me, but I will not take that. I think that was an out of order comment, Councillor Nisbet. I think you need to show a little bit more respect for people here.
Chair, you are out of order the way you spoke to Councillor Dunn.
I don't think I was, Councillor Nisbet. I regret that it's come to this.
Well, that's between both of you then.
I think I've been respectful to all members of this chamber, and I think I've shown a lot of respect for people, and I'd like a bit of respect back. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to make a suggestion. We adjourn this meeting and that we meet again in 14 days' time. Agreed.
Sorry, point of
order.
order,
Can I
Chair.
clarify what that means? Does that mean that the whole meeting is terminated?
Yes, from now on.
What?
That is what I'm proposing.
Chair,
Sorry,
can I just clarify? 12.12.2 hasn't been touched on. It's not going to appear in the minutes that this has been approved because
No, of course not.
I tell you what, this has been an absolute shambles today.
Right.
And
Right, I'm going to move to a
The
vote.
only benefit of this is
Excuse me. I'm going to move to a vote.
Point of order, Chair. I can't understand why you're going to terminate the meeting when you could still do item 13 and item 14 about the local area councils and the finance officer's report.
Excuse me. I have repeatedly heard you talk over other members. You came over to me and you said you complained about people huffing and guffawing on this side of this council. You had a good point. I would like you to have some respect and talk through the chair yourself as well then.
That's the problem. We're dysfunctional. We're mad.
Right.
This is a shambles.
Right, I'm going to move to a vote. I've had it proposed that we adjourn this meeting. Can I have it seconded? Proposed by Councillor Wearmouth.
Chair, sorry, I'm sorry for having to step in here.
There's no debate.
It is on a point of order. I would like to say that you do run your meetings very well. I know some people might not necessarily agree. It's a very difficult job running a meeting, Barry. And I've known you for many years. But I can also say I've been a councillor on this council since 2005, and I have never come across such a shambolic meeting. I don't know who authored these reports, but Christine passing me three.
Can I move to the vote, please? I wish to move to a vote.
Chair,
I wish to move to a vote. It's been proposed.
Chair,
There's no debate
point of
on this.
order. I was
Proposed-
named to speak and I haven't had the chance. There's nothing very democratic about that.
I'm going to move to a vote.
All I was going to say was this was absolutely shambolic and agree with Councillor Hill. I'm not going to be forced to vote on something which is just absolute gobbledygook to me now.
A
It is so
proposal to adjourn the
confusing,
meeting.
this.
Can I have
And
a proposal to adjourn the meeting?
clarification on
Councillor-
12.2, please.
Can I ask as a point of order? If you are going to adjourn this meeting, please could we have proper reasons why? And that they can be actually looked at, and so the public can actually see what the issues are, what are your reasons,
I will
why
give
this
reasons.
meeting isn't being adjourned. Just can I say, because you could adjourn one principle, we could actually carry on with a lot of other things that are very important, and therefore, if you want to adjourn one item or defer one item, then let's defer it.
Right.
But we're here, and the
I-
public expect us to
Yes.
look at the agenda,
Can I-
and there seems to be no reason.
Can I bring my
why we
reason
can't
forward,
do
please?
that.
May I bring my reason forward? And it's been requested of me that people need more time to digest reports. I am also coming up to my 6-hour limit, my 6 p.m. limit as well.
And this motion is moved without debate under procedural.
This motion is moved without debate under procedural rules. May I have a proposal that we adjourn? Councillor Wearmouth. May I have a second that we adjourn? Councillor Seymour. May I move to a vote that we adjourn?
Can we have a name?
I name vote.
I need 20% of people to put their hands up for it.
Name vote.
Chair, can I just make a comment? You're missing
Oh, you can't.
no, you're missing the elephant in the room. We are on unsure times. We're all sitting here with masks on our face. We're all going through health issues, and you want to defer a meeting into times where they're going to get worse in the future. I just can't understand. Let us just get a hold of this, deal with the mmeeting, and let's just move the business
I've
on.
been told the adjournment happens, the vote happens with no debate.
Just name vote then.
Name vote.
So you're going to adjourn on a health and safety issue?
No.
No.
Can't do
That's what
that.
you did well.
Just got to get through now.
Can't do
Yeah.
that legally.
Karen, what's 1/5? Is it 9? So 1/5 for recorded vote. It's 9. You're doing well. I wouldn't.
But we're having a name vote on adjournment.
9. We need 9.
9 people. I think we've got 9 people.
Well, you need their names.
Can I need, apparently I need names, so can you put hands up? Can you put your hands up for an adjournment, please? For a name vote?
Is this for a name vote?
Yes. Lie to us.
Excuse me, Chair. Can I just ask? Which one are they asking for?
This is for a name vote on the adjournment.
But you can only vote Okay.
On us having the vote to adjourn the meeting.
Or do they want their name to be in the minutes, or do they want a recorded vote?
I take this for a recorded vote, that was for? Yes. Yes.
Right, so we need 9.
Yes, I think we've had that 9.
Karen, did you get the 9?
Yes.
I think that was sufficient.
Normally, the number of maps of the names.
Chair, could I just ask something, please, for clarification? Would this report be coming back as it is, or will it be amended and put right? Because if we're going to be coming back in 2 weeks' time with the same reports, we're still going to be more confused than what we are sitting here tonight, because we haven't got a clue what's going on.
I think it's taken as read, it will be amended.
Sorry?
To be correct. I think that's be taken as read, to be amended to be correct.
Sorry, I can't hear you, sorry.
Chair, I'm going to whiz through the names. I understand we have 9, because you're getting close to your 3-hour meeting, guillotine. Councillor Ball.
4.
That's Ball, I think.
100% against.
Councillor Bourne.
104% for.
Councillor Bennion.
Councillor Bainan.
Thank you. Councillor Bowman.
Against.
Councillor Bridget.
Against.
Councillor Carr.
Against.
Councillor Carty.
Against.
Councillor Castle. Councillor Sesford. Councillor Clark. Councillor Dale. Councillor Daly.
Against.
Councillor Darwin. Councillor Dickinson.
Against.
Councillor Dodd. Not here. Okay, thank you. Councillor Dunbar.
Against.
Councillor Dunn.
And
Councillor S. Sholden. Councillor Paul L.
Against.
Sholden. Thank you. Councillor Fairless Atkin. Councillor Ferguson. Not here. Councillor Flux.
4.
Councillor Foster.
Most definitely against.
Councillor Gallagher.
Against.
Councillor Grimshaw.
Against.
Councillor Hardy.
4.
Councillor Hill.
Against.
Councillor Horncastle.
Not here.
Councillor Humphrey.
Against.
Councillor Hunter.
Against.
Councillor Hutchinson.
4.
Councillor Jackson. Councillor Jones.
4.
Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Lang. Lee. Councillor Lee. Sorry,
Not
beg your
here.
pardon. Councillor Mayfell. Arthur.
Councillor Mather.
Very against.
Councillor Morfett.
Against.
Councillor Murphy.
Against.
Councillor Nesbitt.
105% against.
Councillor Oliver. Councillor Parry.
Against.
Councillor Patterson.
4.
Councillor Pulaski. Councillor Purvis.
Against.
Councillor Reid.
Against, and you're going to have to go back and ask Councillor Fairless Aitken what she wants to do.
It might not. I'll thank you for pointing that. I'll go back. I'll carry on for the Councillor Renner Thompson.
4.
Councillor Richardson.
Against.
Councillor Riddle.
4.
Councillor Robinson. Councillor Sanderson. Councillor Scott.
Against.
Councillor Scott, Peace.
4.
Yeah. Councillor Seymour.
4.
Councillor Sharp.
Against.
Councillor Simpson.
Against.
Councillor Stewart.
4.
Councillor Swinback.
Against.
Councillor Swinburne. Not here. Councillor Taylor. Councillor Thorne.
4.
Councillor Towns. Councillor Waddle.
Against.
Councillor Wallace.
Absent.
Councillor Watson.
Against.
Councillor Watson. Councillor Wearmouth. Councillor Wilski, I hope I said that right.
Vilcek against.
Vilcek, sorry, I beg your pardon. And then we have Councillor... Yeah, Councillor
I think I did say against, but I am very sorry for causing this fuss.
Against, okay, thank you. Chair. Karen's got the, so that'll be in the minutes, it's recorded.
Do you need to count numbers up?
No, I don't think we do. You've reached your 3 hours anyway. This is not.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
421 against 38. So we carry on. I need to... It's
Right. So, I think it was Councillor Dunn, wasn't it?
Councillor Dunn. Sorry, I think the monitoring officer wishes to come in.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
You are...
members, I thought you had taken the motion without debate. It was without debate, and you asked for a recorded vote, which was recorded. That will be in the minutes. So 9 of you stood up and said you want it recorded. So that's recorded. It's in the minutes now, how you voted. And from looking at your rules, you have 3 hours for your meeting, and you've reached your 3 hours. I don't know what you want to do, because I cannot find how you extend that. And anyway, you've actually moved to adjourn.
Suspending, move standing orders, Chair, suspend them for another
that
hour.
Wasn't the motion.
Propose to remove standing orders to proceed, Chair.
Agreed.
You've already taken the vote.
But that was a vote on whether we adjourn the meeting or not.
It's adjourned without debate.
Okay. So that vote fell then, didn't it? Chairman, I've been advised to, and I think that's...
No, carry on.
Oh, okay. Carry on then.
Keep going.
Carry on. Fine, we'll carry on. So we're still on agenda item 15. I'll go to Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Chair. I can't remember what I was going to say now, to be perfectly honest, other than this whole thing has been utterly shambolic. I did want some clarification on what happened to item 12.2, the grievance committee, and that was referred to within this table because it was taken out of this table. It had made a difference to some of the numbers, I believe. So some clarification of that. But can you just clarify for me also, are we going ahead with this particular item, this report on the political proportionality, or have you withdrawn that and we're just taking the rest of the agenda?
Do you want me to?
Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
No, so hang on. So just to be clear, so the reason for the potential adjournment was that there was clearly people that weren't content with the report and wanted a bit more time, and that would have given you 2 weeks to consider it, but you chose not to do that. And so we'll continue with this item until we reach a conclusion. Councillor Kennedy made some comment about something that he wished to change. Councillor Dunn, were asking a question. I think you've remembered which it was. There are a series of more questions on this, and then there are a whole series of other things on the agenda to follow, if that helps.
Thank you. It does make sense. Other than I would propose that we defer this one item and continue with the rest of the agenda.
So just on that, I think that perhaps it would have been better to explain the logic of the adjournment, which is that there'll be other committees in between now and a subsequent one. We've had a by-election, which the Liberal Democrats have won, which has changed the proportionality of the council. And so as a result, we need to address this, I would say, now, to make sure that the committees that go forward are proportional to what the places are from the various political parties on the council. Hence the reason for the adjournment. But that's not what people wanted to do. So now we need, I think, unless I'm corrected, need to reach a conclusion on this report, and so it can't be delayed.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to say I can't possibly reach a conclusion on this because there's been so much information coming and going. We've had so many reports, and I can't come to a I'm not going to be bullied into coming to a conclusion on this today, so I won't be voting on it at all.
Thank you, Councillor. That's fine. We could move to an adjournment if you wish, but and then that would have solved the problem.
I want an adjournment. I want to carry on with the rest of the agenda.
Can I have no chatter in the chamber for a second? I've got Councillor Dickinson, Councillor Oliver, Councillor Reid, Councillor Sesford, Councillor Watson. I have other people with hands up. Can you put your hands up when I get further along there, please? I'm going to carry on with the debate. Then Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you, Chair. We have been in a state of flux with these for a few days now. No pun intended, Barry. The table on the back doesn't add up, even when it has 8 committee members, it doesn't add up. We've established that there are multiple errors in this. I think the vote of no confidence there of an adjournment of the ability to then receive something that we can clarify and sort out is a terrible start to a new year. I think this council has had multiple opportunities to present this report properly and in a timely fashion. I have raised throughout the week issues and concerns with its presentation, not least what's been received today. We all note that there are multiple errors and no confidence in the mathematics on the back table versus Appendix 1 and Appendix 2. This needs to be voted down today and a new proposal with an accurate report circulated properly, whether that needs a special council meeting or not, or whether it can be delegated to leaders to approve from this council or not. I'm entirely open to trying to help the administration find a way through this, but I think that this has just been handled terribly, and I don't even think we've got to the main problem of item 12.2.
So you made a proposal there, have you?
Well, I've made a proposal in terms of we need a report that's accurate, we need a report that's provided timely to members, and we need a report that members have confidence in. Now, if that means we have to vote down this report and have a fresh report brought that adds up, that we have confidence in and that we can move forward with, then yes, that's a proposal, Chair.
Right. Seconded. Councillor Wearmouth wishes to come in, I think.
So, what can I just understand, Scott? What is your actual preference? What would you like to happen? Because as far as I find it clear, and there's enough information. There's legal advice that backs it up. It's a report that's perfectly achievable to pass. However, you're saying that you're not comfortable with that, or that you want a bit more time to think about it. My concern is, and you know, the reason that we just had that vote that we just had was we could have come back in 2 weeks. You could have considered everything, and we could then have had, you know, all of the committee places and things sorted out in a couple of weeks, and it wouldn't have made much difference. The problem is the next council meeting. So if you defer it, the next council meeting is not till the 24th of February or something, is it? Something like that. It's a budget meeting. It's going to be a bit busy meeting in any case. And that was the reason for proposing that adjournment. It would have sorted that quickly. What you're saying is that you want to defer it. But are you comfortable
No.
with another meeting very soon?
Sorry, Councillor Wearmouth, what I'm saying is that this report needs a firm no. This report needs a firm no from this council because it doesn't add up. The back sheet doesn't add up, the calculations don't add up, the proportionality isn't worked out correctly. I've tried to speak to Democratic Services this week. There are a number of issues with it, so this one needs to be dealt with and a fresh report brought. Now, if that fresh report, Councillor Wearmouth, because it's in your name, comes to a leaders group and the council are happy for their leaders to agree that, then I'm happy with that. But this report cannot be dealt with tonight. It's not the job of this chamber to sit and work out calculations or point out that an 8 committee member place in the table actually has 7 members allocated to it and no information as to who the 8th person might be. If you look at petitions committee, it says 8. When you add up the numbers, there's 7. So who's the 8th person? I mean, that's just one example of lots of errors in here.
No,
Can I just...
I want the monitoring officer to come in. She's asked to come in. And I can put you on the end of the list unless it's a point of order, Councillor Dale.
Mine was just a support of Councillor Dickinson's proposal about going to group leaders
Monitoring officer, just
to move things on.
Sorry, Chair, did you wish me to come in? Yeah. Councillor Dickinson, I think what you're saying is that you would like to defer this item to a date, or are you saying that you've stood this report down and you want a fresh report? And however, as Councillor Wearmouth has said, that's got to be pretty soon because you've got committees in between. You've just had an election. So I think what the Chair was saying was that come back in 2 weeks with a fresh report or this report amended, entirely up to the Chamber.
So the only alternative is that committees stay as they are until February. So we can't delegate this to group leaders. No. There isn't a mechanism to do that in the Constitution.
Fine. Just to be clear, I'm not proposing a deferral or an adjournment for the same report to be tweaked with. I think we need to give this report a clear no, because nobody has confidence in it in the room, and a fresh report is created by Democratic Services so that we can have some confidence in the report.
Well, I've got confidence in the report. What you're saying is that so the alternative, just to be clear, is something comes back in February, committees stay the same as they are now. I mean, I'm comfortable with that if you want. It will disenfranchise the Liberal Democrats slightly. I don't know how they feel about that, and to an extent the independent group. In which case I would be, I can withdraw that paper if that's what you wish.
Yes, withdraw it.
It's up to you.
Withdraw it?
Yeah, let's just withdraw it, please.
Well, I'd like to withdraw it, but the mechanism for me withdrawing it is...
Yes, I want to withdraw it. I'd like to agree that we withdraw it.
Is that a motion?
Right, a motion's been put forward second to withdraw it. Do we vote to withdraw this?
Agreed.
Yeah.
However, you do need to know when it's coming back.
Well, I'm told I now need to say when it's coming back. That's what I'm being told by a monitoring officer. I would say 2 weeks' time is what I would say.
Well,
just bring it forward to the February Council. We'll find February Council.
We're happy for it to be brought back to February Council.
Could the group leaders have a meeting about when this is going to be brought back and a discussion?
I feel the best way out of this conundrum is to withdraw this paper at the moment. I will meet up with the group leaders in the next 7 days, and we will discuss about the timeliness of bringing a revised report back, and it will either be in a council meeting in 2 weeks or so, or we will put it into the February
meeting.
Budget meeting. Is that all okay with everyone?
No,
Please?
Chair,
Okay.
sorry. Proportionality is like what the law says. So you can't withdraw the paper that establishes the correct proportionality of the council. Because otherwise, everything you do, it is absolutely correct. Look at the proportionality, look at the table. The table is correct. And the thing that Councillor Kennedy is arguing about, when you look on page 143 of the agenda, what it says is, Employment Appeals Committee, 5 members to be drawn from a pool of 20.
Chair, there was
members.
Councillor Oliver, who I wouldn't usually stick up for, was next to speak. Councillor Reid can't just begin to bellow over the top of people.
I think I can.
Not when you're mistaken, Councillor
It's a
Reid. The
point of
report's
order.
not right.
You cannot go
I'm going
forward.
to bring this to a close.
No,
Have we
you
voted
can't. Can I just say...
I've moved to a vote. Can I have someone propose we move to a vote?
So what I would like to say is I think we've reached the stage we're not going to get agreement tonight, and it's very important we try and get agreement across parties. So may I suggest then that the committees stay the same as they are for a few days. We will meet with group leaders either the end of this week or early next week and decide when we will reconvene the council to make this decision. And it'll either be in a week or 10 days or a fortnight, or it will be on the back of the budget meeting in February. The budget meeting, you're all going to agree with our budget anyway, so there'll be no discussion. But will you let us do it? I know it's not perfect, Councillor Reid, but honestly, let's just move on, please, for the sake of keeping everybody together. I'm very sorry that we have had this discussion like this tonight. This is not what I want to see as leader of the council, and I don't want to see it again. So I'm keen to move forward the best way we can to avoid this happening again. Thank you.
I believe the monitoring officer wishes to state something.
Just to reiterate that this report and proportionalities are lawful, and I just want to reiterate they are lawful and they are correct. It's the numbers that, and I can see some councillors are nodding, and so I just want to get that clear to everybody. It is a lawful report. Now you can, have another revised version, as you've just agreed to do, but I just want to make sure that means that the proportionalities stand as they are till you agree them at the next meeting, whether that's in 2 weeks or in February. I just needed to make sure that you understood that.
Yeah.
With respect, it has to stay the same. Otherwise, you have to pass something that changes it. I mean, I really struggle to understand what the lack of clarity is on.
I appreciate a lot of people put their hands up and haven't been able to speak. I apologise for that. However, I think we want to move to a vote. When somebody suggests we move to a vote, please.
Well, I've made a proposal that we park this up. We have a meeting of the group leaders within 1 week. We will then look at the paper. We will decide whether we like it or whether we want it changed, and then it will go to a council meeting either in 2 weeks' time or on the February budget meeting. And I want to get on with this. Come on, let's get a vote. Stop everybody talking so much. Come on.
Agreed. Right. Agreed.
Right. Thank you very much, members.
Agreed to that. Next item on the agenda then.
It's gone through 3 hours.
Yeah.
Somebody hasn't yet.
Right. Bit of housekeeping as well. We went past the 3 hours. There was a bit of confusion at that time. I formally need suspension of standing orders so we continue. That's been moved.
Or we meet in 2 weeks ago.
I think it's been agreed. They won't agree to it. Monitoring officer.
Do you need, how long will you agree? How long is it for? We need a break.
We need a break, but I'm going to suggest a 10-minute break, okay?
I'm sorry, Chair, we've already had a comfort break. We just want to get finished and home.
Yeah.
Fine. Don't worry, no one's agreed with me today, so I'll just carry on.
Don't worry. I'll tell you where you are.
12.2, amendments to Constitution, to create a new committee known as the Grievance Committee to hear and determine grievances raised by the Chief Executive and Chief Officers, and also grievances made against the Chief Executive and Chief Officers. Councillor Weirmouth.
Pardon, sorry, which one did you say we're moving on to, Chair?
12.2.
12.2. Right. Have you got 12.2 there? So just to be clear, 12.2 is amendments to the Constitution. Yeah. Okay. So, thank you, Chair. This the purpose of this is to create a new committee known as the Grievance Committee to hear and determine grievances raised by the Chief Executive and by Chief Officers, and also grievances made against the Chief Executive and Chief Officers, if any are made. And that is then followed up by making consequential amendments to terms of reference for the Staff and Appointments Committee and the Employment Appeals Committee to clarify roles and responsibilities and comply with Council's legal obligations. So the recommendations, as you'll see in the report, it's recommended that the Council establishes a grievance committee, because without one we can't hear grievances in either direction. Appoint a chair and vice chair of the grievance committee, nominations to be made by group leaders. 3, approve the terms of reference as set out in Appendix A to the report. 4, appoint 5 members to serve on the committee in accordance with the political proportionality of the council, nominations again to be made by the group leaders. 5, approves the amendments to the terms of reference of the Staff Appointments Committee and the Employment Appeals Committee as set out in Appendix B. 6, delegates the Monitoring Officer authority to review and make constitutional amendments to the protocols and provisions of the Constitution to give effect to this resolution. The delegation to be exercised in consultation with the Advisory Constitutional Working Group. And so that's the recommendations. The report has been before you for a number of days. It's a short report. I don't know, there's been a lot of back and forth in terms of questions. I would propose that we get straight into the questions and people ask what they need to.
Councillor Hill, Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. One of the most useful, the only useful part of what's been proposed today and all the reports and late reports and so on is to be, for those of us who are students of local government and very, very poor governance and decision making, this is not a housekeeping change. Believe you me, the devil's in the detail, and the devil's, sorry, does monitoring officer mind not speaking over me? There's been no consultation whatsoever on this. A Constitution Working Group is called. I think it's important everyone knows this. Constitution Working Group is called. Great, okay. What's on the agenda? Where's the reports? What are we discussing? What parts of the Constitution should we look at to work out what we can discuss and so on? Nothing came back. The meeting wasn't on the calendar, so I was like, all right, I presume this meeting's been cancelled. Then, oh no, it's going to be an introductory meeting. We had the meeting, there was some reference to changes and reports will come. There was a general discussion about the Constitution Working Group. There was the mention of extending the independent persons, which is a recommendation by the government. There was no mention of this at all. This involves a huge delegation of power from the full council and their responsibilities. So there will be a conversation that members of the public will have with councillors in a few months' time, and it happens with the Taxpayers Alliance and so on. Look at cost to council because of poor decision making or the activity on unlawful behaviour from members. And they'll say, can't believe you've spent that, can't believe the council have decided that, can't believe you do that. So, well, it's nothing to do with me, because you know what, as an elected member, I decided to delegate my power to a group of people dominated by the administration, who, let's be honest, are the cause of all the problems that we've had, and an unelected temporary officer. And they say, why did you delegate the power to do that? I elected you to do that. And they would be right to be angry. It is a dangerous thing to do as well, because we are in the middle of live proceedings, as we all know, including a recent breach of somebody's data. But we are aware of what things are going on, so it's very live. Can I just finish?
Point of order, there's been no breach of data.
And I'm very concerned. Can I just say, I'm very concerned about the rush and expecting people to be dozy after Christmas. So
trying not to be rude here.
I'm proposing
I've
a
got a
deferment
point
to
of
this.
order.
I'm proposing a deferment.
Point of order.
Seconded. I'm proposing this is deferred to be properly discussed.
Right.
Seconded.
Yeah, I'm actually in agreement that we should withhold this one as well. I think unless I've got all my group and everyone else in the room working together as best we can, it's not the right way to do it. I think there is now by holding things back for a couple of weeks, that should not be a reason to cause more issues. We are trying to move forward here. We know what the issues are, but we're much better trying to do it together. So if by agreeing a short interlude, we might get consensus, that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to formally now recommend that this paper is also taken to the same treatment as I recommended with the other one, that I will have a discussion with the group leaders. There may well be a constitution working group called in between, and it will either get...
We're properly consulted.
And it will come to either the council in a couple of weeks' time or the budget council, which you will all like anyway, so it'll be a very short meeting.
Can I make an amendment, please?
Yes.
Sorry. Can I make an amendment if Councillor Sanders, can I make an amendment to his proposal?
I don't know, because I think it's been proposed we move to the vote.
I'm actually making an amendment because actually I want to add to that, and I think Councillor Sanderson is making a very good proposal. What I do want is that actually the whole picture to be included. So if you look at the JNC report, which nobody's read, but actually there's a long procedure to go through before you actually get to the use of a grievance committee within a grievance. And I think, can I just add...
Order on this. I think this can be discussed at a constitution working group as been suggested. So it's been suggested we move to a vote. I would say, can we move to a vote?
You need to clarify two things.
Right. The monitoring officer needs to clarify two things, but we move to a vote.
I do need to clarify two things to say that there is legal advice on this, which you have already circulated, and I will recirculate that in order for you to be able to see the external legal advice again when you meet. There is also further legal advice with apparently the potential alleged data breach. There was no data breach. Again, before I came into this chamber, I received further legal advice on that. Again, that will be circulated. I want to make sure that members are aware that there has been no data breach, there is no procedure irregularities, and I also want to make sure that members know that there is nothing in this report which is underhand and shifty. So I want to make sure that you all know that we are trying to move forward, and I will ensure that you have all the information that you need to make a sound, reasoned and reasonable decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can second the motion if you want.
I think it's been seconded, and I think it's suggested we move to a vote on that.
Yeah, move to a vote.
Yeah.
I'd like to just make a point, if I may.
I know. Derek, Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Kennedy. As much as I would like to hear you, it's been suggested that we move to the vote. That has come to me.
You can't avoid the debate.
No, I can. So if someone says move to the vote, we move to a vote. That's constitutional.
So what? It's a vote?
No,
you took my name.
No,
You took my
no,
name.
no, 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 no.
You did.
No, no.
After Georgina, you took my name, didn't
I was,
however,
Derek, I was next, but I don't seem to be getting in either.
Yeah.
The motion, your motion, you had it seconded, I gave legal advice, that was
yeah, that was it. Move to the vote.
Point of order, Chair. Could we ask who actually wanted to move it to a vote, because we didn't hear it?
I said it, I'm sorry if I didn't say it loud enough.
Thank you.
I'm saying it now.
Thank you. Right. I can. I'm sorry, Councillor Kennedy, I can. As far as I'm aware, if someone calls to move to a vote, I can move to a vote immediately. That happened with Councillor Jackson earlier on in this term, didn't it? You remember it? We moved to a vote and I had questions about it afterwards. We've moved to the vote. Move to the vote.
Can I clarify?
Seconded.
Can I clarify what we're voting on, Chair, just to be clear then?
Yeah. Yeah.
My proposal
Yeah. What?
No, it was, I think it was, you asked for more time, Chair, through you.
Yeah.
Asked for more time, and Councillor Hill proposed it and Councillor Sanderson agreed.
Yeah, that's right. So move to the vote. We move to the vote. Who agrees with?
Can I clarify what it is? The proposal is just to defer this.
To the next available.
To next meeting, as explained by Councillor Sanderson, when that might be.
So it's basically deferral, yes.
What I think we should do, we should have a meeting of the group leaders within 7 days. We should look at this again. We should come back with a paper to a council meeting either in 2 weeks' time or at the budget meeting. And in the meantime, we will need to take the advice and, I think, hold a meeting of the Constitution Working Group.
Yeah, I'm happy with that wording.
Okay.
But this has to be done. I did with the best will in the world. This has got to be done in a way that we don't now all start bashing each other up day after day after day. There's a grown-up way to hopefully move forward together.
Right. All those in favour? Is that unanimous? No, it's not. Okay. All those. No. All those abstaining? All those against? There we go. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Next item on the agenda, or do you want to bring this one to a future meeting, or we're going to do the same thing? Yeah.
Let's just defer this one as well.
Are we happy to defer all the remaining items?
Yes.
Agreed.
Yes.
Is that agreed? Thank you. I'll close the meeting. Thank you very much. Yes, right. Yes, try to do in the first place. Yeah.